Hello, hello, hello. How y'all doing today? Hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday. Just give a couple minutes for everybody to get in before we get the party started. How you doing, Miss Alicia? Everything's going good for you today. You and the grandbaby. Hope y'all having a good time down where y'all at. Appreciate you being here tonight. We'll give a second or two, let everybody get in, and then I go ahead and get started. Oh, let me set my clock. See what is it, 7:03? Got to keep that clock so I know when I'm talking too much. Not that it helps any. Let's just give like one more minute. Let everybody get in. I like things get set up. Let's get started. Got some last minute thoughts I'm writing down real quick. All right, I just wanted to write those last minute ideas. I think we're going to get this party started. Okay, Miss Alicia, I'm sorry. You see, he was messing around. I didn't even see. Wasn't even paying attention. So say, hey, real. Oh man, I understand that. Yeah, I know. We got my grandkids. We got to go get them every now and again. Every other weekend we go get them, and man, we have to log them big old car seats in and out. So I understand. Hey, Miss Ashley, how you doing? I'm glad you're here tonight. Appreciate you. Sorry, y'all. Let me get this straightened up. This thing, if I don't, it's gonna bother me. My OCD is gonna bother me. Glad you're here, Mr. Eric. Glad you're here as well. Appreciate y'all being here tonight. And Miss Alicia, I understand that them car seats and all that, man. I pray you can get you one because it definitely makes things a lot more easier, especially with you having to care for a child and everything. It'll make it a lot easier on you. So I definitely understand that. My forehead is just shiny, y'all, and I ain't even got a cut this week. It's just buffed. But I appreciate y'all being here tonight. Thank y'all for joining me, of course, and Brother John on behalf of Lost Sheep Ministries, sponsored by River Lake Baptist Church, here to bring y'all a message tonight. We've been going over the will of God for quite some time in this book of Samuel, and the reason why I'm kind of focusing on the will of God because you just see how the Lord set everything up through Samuel and setting everything up with Saul, and it was all a part of His will, and we're gonna be able to look at how His will plays out, and we're gonna be able to look at a lot of different aspects of His will, which is why I'm kind of focused on His will. And I've always told y'all as well, just as important it is to accept Him as Savior, it's just as important to follow His will once you make that decision. So that's what we've been focusing on. And again, we're gonna focus on the will of God tonight, but a different aspect. For the last few weeks, we've been just talking about the success that comes from following the will of God. And then last week, the last 2 weeks, we've talked about dealing with the success as it comes in, you know, the little things you're going to have to deal with. And so tonight we're going to actually talk about the will itself. And I thought about, like, I never really did a lesson. I mean, I'm always talking about the will and bringing up the will and things like that, but I've never actually did a lesson on, like, the will itself and the things that you should expect that come when serving the will of God or dealing with the will of God itself. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about. I know on my post I put the commands of the will of God, which we're going to have another lesson in a couple of weeks that's going to deal with that. I actually thought we was in it's in chapter 13. I was thinking we was in 13. I thought the issues that's going to come up in chapter 13 is what we were dealing with tonight. But Saul, this is not that yet. So even though on my post I put the commands of the will of God, which we will get to, I changed it to the demands. The demands instead of commands is demands. So in other words, stuff, as I went through the lessons, started putting the lesson together, it's stuff that I've seen, that I'm seeing as we go through this chapter. Of course, we know we've been following Saul for the last few weeks. We at the point where, Saul, he was crowned king. I mean, he was anointed king. And then last week we saw he officially got a crowned king. So now this is the first chapter. This is first look at Saul as king. And so that's why I say, once so he's accepted the will of God. Well, it's been the will of God has been made known that God wants him to be king. Saul reluctantly accepted the will of God. He finally accepted the will of God. So now we're going to start seeing him live the will of God. So this is the first chapter we seeing him as king, living in the will of God. What's up, Chris? Glad you can make it in. My man, Quentin, I appreciate you stopping in as well. But we're going to see, this is going to be the first chapter of us looking at Saul as now he's, like I said, now now that he knows the will of God and he's accepted the will of God, now living the will of God. So once you know the will of God for your life, and once you're willing to accept the will of God for your life, then there's going to be some things that are going to come along with following that will. There's going to be some things that you're going to have to, some hurdles that you're going to have to jump, so to speak. There's going to be some things you're going to have to deal with that comes along with following the will of God. So we're going to see a few of those as we get into this first chapter of Saul as king. And that's why I said, even though I put in the comments on Facebook, I put the demands of the will of God, but I'm actually going to change, the commands of the will of God. I'm actually going to change it to the demands. We'll get to the command. Like I said, we are going to get to that. But that's going to be chapter 13. But tonight we're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 11. So if you got your Bibles and you want to follow along, we're in 1 Samuel chapter 11. And again, we get to see Saul as he's dealing with being in the will of God. All right, so that's what we're going to deal with tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and pray so I can jump into the lesson. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us tonight. Thank you so much for shining your love and grace down upon me and his family and this ministry, Lord. And for all the ones that's here tonight, I know it's a Monday night and they can be doing anything, Lord, but they're here to hear your word. And that's such a blessing and encouragement to me. And I pray that I can be a blessing and encouragement to them as they go through these words, Lord. I've been teaching them, and my whole ministry is based upon following your will. That's what started this ministry, really, when I wrote a song called God's Will. So that's why, this lesson and these last few weeks that the things I've been going over have been really near and dear to my heart, because it's helped me get to where I need to be. So I'm just sharing this knowledge and that you blessed me with, this wisdom you blessed me with over these 19 years that I've been serving you, to hopefully help them get to the same place as I am. And there's going to be some things that once we decide to serve your purpose and your will, there's going to be some things that we're going to have to deal with, Lord. And I pray that you be with us tonight so we can bring these things out, Lord. Send your spirit down upon my heart and mind, to get my heart and mind prepared and ready to present this lesson to the people. And I pray you send your spirit down upon their hearts and minds as well, to give them the want to receive this wisdom that I'm about to share with them tonight, that was given to me through your Holy Spirit. And I pray you let it soak into their hearts and bring them under conviction, and just give them the encouragement, enthusiasm they're going to need, so they can continue to go and follow your will for their lives as well, which I'm praying they're doing, because as we've been talking about the last few weeks, the importance of following your will and the success that comes from that. And I pray this lesson tonight can give them the encouragement to keep going forward, serving your purpose and your will, because they're going to know what to expect. They're going to know the things they're going to have to deal with, and they're going to know what they need to do because they listen to this lesson here tonight. So I pray you send your spirit down upon this session as always. Guide us in the direction that we need to go, and just give us all the wisdom in your presence so we may be better Christians when we lead this lesson than we was when we started. We love you and thank you for all you've done and given, and say this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right. I usually have my peppermint right before just to kind of preserve my voice a little bit, but I forgot my peppermint, but y'all don't have to deal with it. I should be fine. I got plenty of water, should be fine. Might have to sip on this high quality H2O a little bit more. Miss Tanya, I appreciate you being in here. See you creeped in here. I appreciate you being here tonight. So again, y'all, like I said, we've been covering the will of God for the last few weeks, and I hope y'all ain't tired of it. Cause there ain't nothing to do about it. That's what's the lesson, where we at in the Bible. That's what the lesson dealing with. We're really seeing, the will of God plays out. Cause that's the thing that I think keeps us, a lot of us, from getting to God's will, because we never really get to see how it all plays out and how it all affects us in the end. And we're looking at the life of Saul and the life of all the others, that's in the Bible. We get to see how God, had this will for their lives, and had things for them to do according to their will, and how it played out, whether they followed their will or they didn't follow their will, how it played out. We get that advantage. You know, when you think of the story of Samson and how things played out for him, because he really didn't follow the will of God. You think of Joseph and how things, which Joseph going to come up several times tonight, but how things worked out for him because he did follow the will of God. The same for David. He's going to come up tonight, how things worked out to him because he did follow the will of God. And like I said, Saul is the first one, since we've been doing this, that's where we really get to see how God had this will for him and how things started off. And Saul is actually, y'all know your Bible enough, you know, he's going to eventually get out of the will of God, which is why I want to spend this time going over the will and seeing how important it is once God points his will out to you, you make that decision to understand what's going to come with that, what's going to come with the things that you're going to have to, the demands of being in the will of God, because it's not an easy task. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. You know, there's a reason why people don't preach. You know, you don't have preachers, a dime a dozen. You know, there's a reason why, people don't go out soul winning every single Saturday. There's a reason why people don't go to church every single time the door's open. It's a lot of work to be in the will of God. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of demands that you have to be ready to deal with. And sometimes we get into it not realizing that it's going to come with all these demands, and then we just kind of go astray because it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. So that's why I wanted to do this lesson. I thought this is a good opportunity to kind of look at the will itself, so you kind of have an idea of what to expect, an idea of what you end up having to deal with when you really do decide that, hey, I'm gonna do the will of God. I'm gonna get into God's work and do His will. Because it's not easy. It's hard work, and it's gonna take a lot of sacrifices and compromises. But if y'all stick with me, I'll guide you through it. You know what I'm saying? Not that I'm perfect, not that I'm, I hope I'm in this perfect way. That's my ultimate goal. But I know I still got work to do, but I can, lead you down that path that I went down that has helped me get to where I'm at. And God has really, truly have been blessing me. So again, with that being said, that's why I said tonight's lesson is called the demands of the will of God. Things that you're going to have to deal with once you make that decision that you're going to serve God's will. Those things are things you're going to have to deal with. So with that being said, we're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 11. Of course, everybody know if you first time, but unless you're first time watching this video, I'm a King James believer. I preach out the King James when I preach in the church. But I do, for my Lost Sheep ministry, I always do out the New Living Translation. It just breaks it down in regular English so everybody understands what's being said and we don't miss out on any of the details, and I don't have to explain everything because y'all know I already talked long enough, and I have to sit there and explain everything. We'll never get through this Bible, which I hope to do at some point, probably in the way distant future, but that is my goal, to go through the whole Bible with you guys and just help y'all have the relationship with the Lord that I have, because I go through it all the time. So that being said, I'm going to start over tonight. Like I said, we're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 11, and we start off. So again, the situation where we at, just in the timeline. Again, you remember Israel didn't have a king for the longest. Samuel was the king. He wasn't king. He was like the judge or the preacher, the leader. But he was, it was basically he had a relationship with the Lord, and the Lord talked to him, and he talked to the people and guided the people at the Lord's direction. And that's how it was for the longest. They either had judges or just spiritual leaders. And Israel got to the point where they wanted to be like the world. So they requested to have a king. And so they requested to have a king. And the Lord, decided to go ahead and give him a king. And about the same time, Saul, his dad had lost some cattle, and he needed to find the cattle. So his dad had told him, "Hey, go find these." It was donkey. Actually, I say cattle. You think of cows, but it was some donkeys. And his dad gave him and his servant, told him it was him and the servant, go find the donkeys. They went looking for them, couldn't find them. And the servant made a suggestion one day that, hey, after they had been out there for 2-3 days, hey, let's go see the seer. In other words, let's go find the preacher and see if he knows where the donkeys was at. And little did Saul know, again, that's why I say it's all about God's will. Little did Saul know that this was all a part of God's will. And because that servant made that suggestion, and because they did go to seek out the man of God, Saul ended up being anointed as king of Israel. So he got anointed when he first met Samuel, and then Samuel called all the people together and anointed him officially in front of everybody. So everybody knew that, hey, this is the man y'all wanted a king. This is the man that God is making a king, and he made it official in front of everybody. So that's what we left off at when they officially made Saul king. So now this chapter 11 is Saul as king. This is him as king, serving out God's will as king. So we start over in chapter 11, verse 1. It says, the Lord tells us this. So he said about a month later. So this is about a month. So at this point, Saul has been serving as king for about a month. So it said about a month later, King Nahash of Ammon led his army against the Israelite city of Jabesh Gilead. So a month after Saul become king, he got to deal with this situation where he has to go to war with the Ammonites. Now, I think, let me look back real quick. If I'm not mistaken, I think the Ammonites are actually the cousin. And the reason why this is important, because we're going to see that they're going to be treating them pretty harsh. I should have looked this up beforehand. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Ammonites are related. I might be thinking, I know it's Moab. And is it a Moab and Ammon? I believe it is. Hold on one second. Let me find this. I know exactly where it's at if I can get to her. Yes, there you go. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was right. So these are actually cousins. These Ammonites that he about to get into it with are actually cousins of the Israelites. But they were from the daughters. Y'all remember the story of Lot? You remember he had sex with his the Moabites and the Ammonites. Yeah, the Moabites and the Ammonites. So yeah, that's correct. Actually, you got it before me, but I was pretty sure I wanted to make sure before I misled somebody. But yeah, if y'all know the story of Lot, he ended up hooking up with his 2 daughters, and one daughter had a baby, and they became the Moabites. And then the other daughter had a baby, they become the Ammonites. And that's who we're dealing with here. And see, this is kind of going to go back to what I was going to come, one of my points tonight of why it's important to do things according to the will of God. But I'll get to that later. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So again, it said about a month later, King Nahash of Ammon led his army against the Israelite city of Jabesh Gilead. So as I was saying, Saul is being a king. He's only been a king for a month. He finally accepted the will of God. He accepted that God wanted him to be king, and he's been king for a month, and now he has to deal with this situation. So one of the first thing you got to understand when dealing with the will of God, one of the demands of the will of God, number one is this. First point for the lesson tonight. There is going to be some opposition from the world. There's going to be some opposition. The moment that you decide that you're going to get serious about doing God's work, you got to understand the opposition is going to come. This world is going to come. It's going to come for you. And it's so crazy because you can live your life, man. You can live your whole life and basically do whatever you want to do. Yes, some bad stuff will happen here and there, and every now and again, you know what I'm saying? And that's really just God smack your butt a little bit. But for the most part, man, the world, they'll leave you alone and they'll just let you do because that's what it wants you to do. But the moment you decide that you're gonna do something for God, you're gonna get serious about following the will of God. Have y'all ever? I know how many of y'all have done that already, but I've noticed when I did it. Of course, I know as soon as I did it, the moment I decided that I was gonna be serious about doing God's work, that's when everything started falling apart. That's when it seemed like my world just started falling apart. It just seemed like when, you know what I'm saying, if it rained, it poured. The moment I decided, when I was out here living these streets and messing around with all these girls and just doing what I wanted to do, carousing and sewing my royal oats and all that. You know, like I said, I had the negativity and the drama that came from that stuff. But for the most part, as far as like the world as a whole, man, it was cool. But that moment you decide, oh, I'm gonna get off drugs, or I'm gonna stop drinking, or I'm gonna stop, doing, messing with girls, or I'm gonna stop messing with guys, whatever. That moment you make that decision, that's when it seemed like your world just started falling apart. And it's a reason for that, because the devil knows how important it is to keep you out of the will of God. That's what y'all don't understand. The devil knows that. The devil knows how important it is to keep you out of the word of God. He knows how important it is to keep you out of the will of God. And he just laughs at us because he just throw a few things at us and we just walk away from it so casually and don't even realize what we're really giving up. We don't realize the power and the rewards that comes from living that will of God and serving the Lord with our whole heart. And a lot of times because we get that little stumble in the beginning, that little road bump, that little speed bump in the beginning, then we just walk away from it. And it works. It works. There's a lot of people that have said, oh man, I'm going to give my life to God and I'm going to do this. And then they have something happen and bam, you know what I'm saying? They get right out of the wheel, so you got to understand, when you make that decision, that moment you make that decision, to truly be serious about the will of God, expect the opposition to come. Expect it to come. Just know it's going to happen. I mean, because you got to think about it. You know what I'm saying? I think about the most famous one, of course, and some people don't even think about this. Think about Jesus when Jesus first got baptized. Now, you remember when Jesus was on the earth about 30-some years, according to, give or take a year, but he was about 30 years old before he really started just really getting into the ministry. He was about 30 years old. So what was he doing all those other years? Now, that don't mean he was out there like I was doing, carousing and hooking up with women and stuff like that. But, I mean, he wasn't really doing his ministry hadn't really started yet. His ministry hadn't really started yet. His ministry didn't really start until he came to John the Baptist and got baptized. And y'all remember what happened. He went to John the Baptist. John the Baptist was baptizing people in the Jordan River. Jesus went down to the Jordan River. John the Baptist saw Jesus, knew who he was, like, man, I don't want to baptize you. You should be baptizing me. And of course, Jesus like, no, man, this is how it's supposed to be. This is the will of God. We got to do it. Then John the Baptist eventually agreed. And it said he went down the water. When he came up, it said the Spirit of God, you can see the Spirit of God descending on him like a dove. And when that Spirit of God descended on him like a dove, you know what I'm saying? It said the skies opened up and they was able, I don't know if everybody heard, but I think everybody heard the way it was written. But it's like, you know what I'm saying? There was a voice from heaven said, this is my son whom I'm well pleased. So he just, finally, like I said, I don't know what he was doing the whole first 30 years. I don't know what he was doing. There's really no Bible on it. There's no history on it at all. So, I mean, a lot of people speculate, but nobody really knows. But I know that his ministry, his official ministry, hadn't started yet. Then it didn't start until that moment. So again, he gets baptized, come up out of the water. The Spirit of the Holy Spirit descending on him like a dove. Hear a voice from heaven saying, this is my son whom I'm well pleased. And it was the very first thing that happens after that very first moment, the moment that you can say that Jesus made his decision that, all right, I'm finna get serious about God's will, was the very first thing that happened to him after he come up out the water and all this magnificent stuff happened. He got taken to the desert and got tempted by the devil for 40 days and 40 nights. Didn't eat or drink anything for 40 days and 40 nights. And then it said the devil came and tempted him. So you see, the moment, even Jesus himself, the moment he made that decision to get serious about his work, the work that God had him do. And I'm not saying he wasn't serious before, because you remember even when he was a kid and when he was 12, he got lost in the temple and his folks were looking for him. And they're like, where were you at? You didn't know we was looking for you? And he's like, man, y'all should have known I was going to be about my father's business. So I'm not saying that he wasn't serious about it the whole 30 years. Like I said, there's no evidence of what he was doing. But the moment we know that his ministry truly started was that moment. And he got baptized, came up, got the Spirit of God on him. And the first thing that happened was what? He went out to the desert for 40 days, 40 nights, fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and the devil came and tempted him. So you have to understand that. And the reason why the devil do that, because he knows what'll happen if you stay faithful to God's will. You know, the Bible tells there's three wills of God. You got the acceptable will, you got the good will, and you got the perfect will. And a lot of us end up on the acceptable will. Most people end up on the acceptable will. You know, and some end up in the good will. But where you want to be is God's perfect will. You want to be exactly where God wants you at, doing exactly what God wants you to be doing. You know what I'm saying? That's why I love these Monday nights. I know as long as everything work out and I can get home on time and my internet is working fine and you know what I'm saying, everything worked out till I'm here at 7 o'clock, then guess what? I know at this moment, if no other point to doing today and if no other point during the rest of the week, I know at this moment right here, I'm in God's perfect will. I'm exactly where I'm at, doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's what you want to be. That should be your goal, because that's where the power comes from. And see, the devil understands that better than anybody. He understands what we can do with our lives. He understands the power that we can have in our lives if we just really surrender to God's perfect will and give our all to it. So that's why that moment you make that decision, when he see that you're serious about it, you know what I'm saying, he see you sitting out in the drug house or sitting at the bar and you just all of a sudden like, you know what, I'm done with this. You know what I'm saying? Once he see you make that decision, he knows like, oh man, he's really just had that change of heart. He's going to do everything he can to pull you back. That's why whenever I go out and I go soul winning and I lead somebody to the Lord, that's one of the main things I tell them. First thing I tell them, like, look, now I know you just served just accept the Lord as Savior, you know, congratulations. I said, but I always tell them, don't be surprised if things start getting rough from you over the next few weeks. Don't be, especially when I did, because a lot of part of the ministry is Lost Sheep Ministry, and I go into projects a lot. And I also do drug counseling at a rehab center here in Camden. So a lot of people that I know or that I lead to the Lord, that I talk to, I'm always helping ministry to, deal with drugs. You know what I'm saying? They have drug addiction. They have alcohol addiction. They have sex addiction, whatever. They have some kind of addiction they're dealing with. So I always tell them, don't be surprised that now that you're making this decision, that you know that those drugs or those women or whatever, for somebody from that life come around, start trying to bother you. Now I remember this one time I had this guy, I led him to the Lord, and he was dealing with meth. He was dealing with meth, and I said, don't, and I just told him exactly, I said, man, don't be surprised if, you know, somebody pop up out of the blue, you know, with some meth, like, hey man, here you go, kind of thing. And I'll be during y'all, not even 2 days later, the guy said, because I saw him about a week later, he said, man, Brother John, I'm so glad you told me that. He said, don't you know, like the very next night after you had led me to the Lord, he said, I was at Walmart and this girl I used to know that I used to want to hook up with, showed up out of the blue. I was walking out of Walmart and she just pulled up, was like, hey, why don't you, I got some, what's up? He said, the very next day after I told him this. And he said, man, because of the fact you mentioned that to me, I already knew it was the devil testing me. So I just, I stepped away from it. You know what I'm saying? He said, like, thank you. And I said, brother, I didn't know that because I'm so smart and I'm so wise. I just know how the devil works. And that's what he does. That moment you make that decision, you're going to get serious about doing God's will. That's what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Something's going to come up. He's going to do something. And it ain't always, obvious. You know what I'm saying? It can be little stuff. I mean, look at what happened with Joseph. You know, when God revealed his will for Joseph, God showed Joseph in a dream that, hey, someday you're going to be the leader of this people. You know what I'm saying? Your brothers and your mom and your dad, they're going to bow down to you. And he shared that dream with his brothers and his parents, and they kind of rebuked him for it. And then what happened? After God just showed him that, hey, you're going to be this leader, you know what I'm saying? You're going to be this great person. What's the next thing that happened to him? His brother sold him to slavery. He ended up going to slavery and was stuck in Egypt as a slave for 20 years. Right after God had just revealed this wonderful will for him. You see what I'm saying? Why? Because the devil wanted to take him out of there. But thank God that Joseph was faithful. And he didn't give into the wiles of the devil. He didn't give into the devil's tricks. And he remained faithful even though he was in that situation that he did nothing to deserve. Thank God he remained faithful. And he still ended up being exactly what God told him he was going to be. But he had to go through some opposition because of that. He had to go through some opposition. That moment, God showed him the will. And you can see Joseph, Joseph never really fought the will. He was like, oh man, I'm going to be this leader. He was so happy about it. He was telling the brothers, everybody about it. And that's what ended up getting him in trouble. But you know why? Because he had to be tested. And see, that's what you got to understand. The opposition is coming. It's going to come from the world. You know what I'm saying? Because the devil want to pull you away. But at the same time, God can use that to test you to see, Are you really about it? Are you really serious about my will? You know, Joseph, I just showed you're going to be this leader. Let me see, will you still be as faithful to me as you are right now once I put you in slavery for 20 years? Take you away from your homeland around the people everything that you've known and loved, and put you in this strange place. And not only put you in a strange, I mean, it's been one thing to be put in a strange place, but he was put in a strange place as a slave. I mean, you can't get no lower than that. You know, so not only, yes, the devil try to use the things of this world and that pull you away from God. But again, we know in Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, to them who are called according to his purpose. So if you stay, again, according to his, when you understand that everything that is happening to you is happening according to his purpose, even though the devil trying to use it for bad to pull you away from God, if you stay faithful, you remain in his perfect will, then the Lord will use it to glorify him. The devil want to use it to pull you away from God, but God will use that little trial that you're going through to glorify him. But you got to understand, it's going to happen. And that's why that's why I said, number one, there's going to be some opposition from the world. The moment, like I said, the moment you can live your life and do whatever you want to and be, you know what I'm saying, hell on wheels. But that moment you decide, you know what, I'm going to get serious about serving the Lord, that's when the opposition is going to come. You know what I'm saying? That's when the financial troubles is going to come. That's when the health problems is going to come. That's when the family problems is going to come. You know what I'm saying? I remember we had this one guy in our church. This dude was like, he was close to 70. He was somewhere between 60 and 70. Had never been to church before in his life. Never been to church. You know, almost 70 years old, never been to church before in his life. Just so happened through a series of events, he came across our pastor. His wife started coming to church, but he still wouldn't come to church. And through a series of events, eventually he ended up getting saved. The pastor talked to the guy, he got saved. You know, and the guy got saved. He started, like, you know what I'm saying, he wanted to get baptized. So, and he was real shy. He didn't like being around people. So he actually had the pastor to baptize him, like, after the church was over, whatever, because he didn't want other people to see it, which was fine. But eventually he started coming to church. Not even 2 months after he got saved and got baptized and really started getting to church, guess what happened, y'all? He ended up having a lump on the back of his elbow when it turns out it was cancer. You know what I'm saying? This dude just got saved. Almost 70. Just got saved. Just starting to try to have a relationship with the Lord. And next thing you know, he got cancer. That's how it happened. Why? Because the devil wanted to pull him away. I don't know what that brother, and he ended up, and it wasn't even a year or two later, he ended up passing away. It was a very aggressive cancer. He ended up passing away a couple of years later. But the whole time, and I say this because the whole time, even though he stopped coming to church because of the cancer or whatever, he was listening to church on his radio. You know, the pastor would go over there and he'll be listening to some preaching on the radio, or on his phone, or however he listened to it, the TV or whatever. So the devil tried to pull him away, but he still got to go in glory praising the Lord. So you got to understand, when you decide that you're going to do something for the Lord, the opposition is going to come. So the opposition, like I said, the devil is sending the opposition to pull you away from the Lord. But if you remain faithful, the Lord can use that to test you to see, was you really serious about that decision? Because what's faith that hasn't been tested? You know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna get nothing that you go buy a car. What you gonna do? You're gonna go for a test drive. You're gonna go riding around. Matter of fact, the fact they usually give you so many days that you can bring it back just in case something's wrong. You don't want to put your full faith in something, especially something that big that you don't have to rely on. That's going to be that can really alter your life one way or another. You don't want to put your faith in something that you haven't tested yet. You know, and the bigness of the work that we do for the kingdom of God, the bigness of what all this is, and serving the Lord and praising the Lord and worshiping the Lord, God don't want to put that in the hand of somebody that ain't been tested. Because if he does, and your faith wasn't really real, you were just making an emotional decision because everybody else was making it at the moment, then when the times get rough, what's going to happen? You're going to falter. You're going to falter. And when you falter, you're going to take a lot of people with you. So you got to understand, that's why I say, man, it's going to happen. That moment, if you're dealing with drugs or alcohol or a sex addiction or just not being faithful in the church, whatever it is that you're dealing with, the moment you decide that I'm going to get in the will of God and put these things behind me, that's when it's going to get a lot worse. It's going to happen. Another example, think of David. When David got anointed king, you remember David, he was a shepherd. He wasn't thinking about being no king. Matter of fact, he was so far away from thinking about being a king that when Samuel came to anoint the sons, his father's son, what was his dad's name? Jesse. His father's name was Jesse. He told him, bring all your sons in. They didn't even bother telling David. David was still at the sheepfold. And then Samuel went through all of them, and the Lord didn't reveal any of them to him. He said, well, it's none of these. Like, you got another son? He said, oh, yeah, we got David, but he's out there at the sheep. Because he was the youngest. Didn't think nothing of it. And he said, we ain't going to eat till he comes in. David came in, and the Lord said, that's him. That's him. David, one of the greatest kings in the Bible, even with his little flaw, one of the greatest kings in the Bible, the one that the Lord made the covenant through, that said it'll always be inherited, somebody from the lineage of David on the throne, one of the greatest kings of the Bible. They weren't even considering him. But the moment he came in, the Lord said, that's him. And then what happened? Samuel anointed him. And then what happened after that? Saul brought him in, and then Saul ended up getting jealous of him because he saw the anointing of God on him. And David ended up for years running around through the wilderness trying to keep from getting killed by Saul. You know what I'm saying? So hold on. The Lord told me I'm going to be king. Then all of a sudden I got this dude, the current king, trying to kill me. Like, he can be like, man, forget this king stuff. If this was going to come with, I don't want that. I don't want it. It'd been easy for David to walk away, but David remained faithful. And he even was so faithful that he had a couple of times where he could have just went on and killed Saul and took over the kingdom because he was already anointed. God had already told him, but he didn't even touch him. He said, I'm gonna let God. Basically, he said, I'm gonna let God put me in that position when God is ready to put me in that position. Because it meant, oh man, because remember one time Saul was in a cave, taking a dump. And just so happened to be the same cave that David was hiding from him, And it's been, oh man, there he is. We got him. God put him in his hand. And David said, nope, I'm not going to touch him. But all David did, he went up and cut a piece of his robe off. Then there was another time when he was out there and Saul once again chasing him, and they had fell asleep. And David and one of his men snuck into, walked up right beside Saul. And once again, this man was like, hey, I can go ahead and kill him. Just give me one shot. I won't even have to stick him twice. And he'll be gone. And David said, no, we're not going to touch him. He's the Lord's anointed. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to let the Lord deal with it. But they stole his this water thing, and they stole the spear, and then they went off. And then they called back like, hey, why you following me? I could have killed you. And that was the last time Saul really was following David. But the point is, David, the will of God was shown to David. David was shown to be the next king. He was proclaimed to be the next king, and the Lord's will was revealed to him. And right after the Lord's will was revealed to him, he went for a little bit, like I said, because he served Saul for a little while, became in the army. He killed Goliath and all that. But before he became king, he went through some stuff. There was some opposition there. As a matter of fact, the opposition was from the former king. He almost lost his life. As a matter of fact, at any point, the grace of God wasn't on him, he would have lost his life. Because as a matter of fact, you read over in Psalms, you read a lot of Psalms that David wrote. He said, he tells the Lord, had it not been for you, had your hand not been on me, I know I wouldn't have made it here. Had your hand not been on me, I know I'd be dead by now. You see, he understood. He understood the opposition came, but he understood also the assignment that he needed to stay in the will of God. So even though the opposition came, that don't mean that he was still in the will of God. That don't mean that God didn't still have a will for him. It just means the opposition knew that if he stayed in the will, he knew the power that was going to happen. He knew, because you got to think about it too. The seed was supposed to came through the lineage of David. Jesus is basically, a relative of David. He's in the lineage of David. So look how big that was. That had Saul and the opposition that Saul and the world brought on David, got David out of the will of God. Look how big that would have had, the effect it would have had on the kingdom of God, and us being here today and being able to come to God, because we wouldn't have had Jesus. We wouldn't have had none of that. None of that would have worked out. So that's why it's so important to understand and see. The devil knows this thing. The devil knows. He knows how God works. He knows the power that you can have. He knows what you can do if you stay faithful to the will of God. And that's why that moment you make that decision that you're going to serve the will of God, that's why the opposition comes. So you have to remember that there's going to be opposition from the world. The moment you make that decision to be serious about the will of God, the opposition is going to come. You know what I'm saying? But again, don't let that opposition pull you out of the will of God. Don't let the opposition get you out the path that God has for you. Don't, you know what I'm saying? Don't let that opposition, because like I said, I tell people all the time, hey, you just got saved, it's probably going to get better or worse before it gets better. And one thing I tell them. So, but don't let that opposition get you out of the will of God. Instead, let that opposition be a opportunity for you to grow in the relationship with God, grow in your faith in God, grow in your patience in God, grow in your trust in God. That's what the opposition should do. If your heart is really in tune with God, if you're really serious about the decision that you made, if you're really serious about serving the will of God, that's what opposition would do to you. It won't pull you away from God. It'll actually pull you closer to God. But you got to understand, once you make the decision to get closer to God, there's going to be some opposition there. So number one, there's going to be some opposition from the world. The moment you decide to be serious about the will of God, that's when the world will seem to fall apart. Why? Because they want to pull you out of the will of God. They see the great thing this world sees, the devil sees the great thing that God has for you. He sees the great thing that God has planned for you, and he knows that you can't see it. So if he can just get you distracted just enough, to give up on God's will, then he wins. And that's all this stuff is, this stuff that goes on in this world. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I almost fell for the first time when I first got in. Because I was like, oh man, I just gave my life to God. God just touched me and told me I'm being this preacher. It's going to be great. You know, and I was not prepared for the opposition that came from me doing God's work. People that I love dearly that had listened to me before wouldn't even listen to me anymore because I was talking about God. They listened to me when I was selling drugs and living in the world. When I started talking about God, they wouldn't listen. I got sad for a little bit. But I stayed on the path, and that's why I'm here talking to y'all almost 20 years later. You know why? Because I didn't let that opposition take me off my path, and over these last 19 years, I've let the opposition that has come into my life, I've used it as an opportunity to grow and to grow in my relationship with God and grow closer to God. Then I have let it take me away from God. So again, number one, there's going to be some opposition from the world. The moment you decide to be serious about the will of God, that's when your world's going to seem to fall apart. But again, don't let that pull you out of the will of God, instead, let it make you grow. Let it help you grow closer to God, so you can really walk that will and be encouraged in His will and do the work that He has for you to do. So, and you see again, this is from His own family. So the next line, the next part of the verse said, "But the citizens of the Jabesh Gilead asked for peace. Make a treaty with us, and we will be your servants," they pleaded. "All right," Nahash said, "but only on one condition. I will gouge out the right eye of every one of you as a disgrace to all of Israel." Ooh, that's rough. He said, "All right, I'll make a peace treaty, but you got to let me gouge your eye out." Now, I'm going to read. Now, in my Bible, in the New Living Translation, I don't know how y'all Bible, it has this little footnote down here. There's like a little extra something from it says from the Dead Sea Scroll. So it's this extra little verse that was left out. They kind of let you know what kind of situation Israel was in. So it says this in my Bible. It says, "Now Nahash, the king of the Ammonites, had been grievously oppressing the Gadiites and the Reubenites who lived east of the Jordan River. He gouged out the right eye of each of the Israelites living there, and he didn't allow anyone to come and rescue them. In fact, of all the Israelites east of the Jordan, there wasn't a single one whose right eye Nahash had not gouged out. But there were 7,000 men who had escaped from the Ammonites, and they had settled in Jabesh Gilead." So that's why he was there, to get the ones that had escaped. Now, one thing I want to note to you, you notice the people he was oppressing was on the east side of the Jordan River. Now, if you know your Bible, you know the significance of that. See, the Israelites wasn't supposed to be on the east side of the Jordan River. They were supposed to be on the land that the Lord had promised them originally was on the west side of the Jordan River. But before they got over to the west side, there were some kings, King Og and King Shion, I believe their names was, that attacked the Israelites, and the Israelites ended up defeating them. And because they defeated them, they got their land on the east side. So I think it was the half tribe of Manasseh, the tribe of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh. They all was like, "Well, man, this land is over here is good, so why don't you just give us this?" So they end up taking land on the east side of the river, but that's far away from what the actual the land that the Lord had intended for them to have, and it was far away from the temple of the Lord. So basically they was as far away from the Lord as they can get. Not saying they was like that in their heart, but they wasn't close to where the temple was going to be at. They wasn't close to where the Lord was going to be worshipped. So they was really kind of out there on their own. So that's just a little side note. That's not the point. That's just a little side note. That's why you got to watch out where you at. That's why I say you got to work on getting close to the Lord so you have that protection. It's like I said, it's when I look at that, it's not strange to me that they were being oppressed like that because they're so far away from their other relatives and so far away from the Lord was really at. Well, of course, the Lord is always with us, but where he had the place that he had put designated to put his name, they was far away because they was on the east side instead of west side where they should have been. So that's why they was in that trouble. So I just wanted to read y'all, kind of let you know what was going on. So he comes in and he's already oppressed everybody on the east side, and he went and even basically hunted down these other 7,000 that had resettled over there on the west side, and he was about to do the same thing to them. So they like, so they said they knew what he was doing. They knew how oppressed they had been. And again, you gotta understand, Israel didn't have no king just yet, so they didn't really have nobody to protect them or lead them into battle. So they really didn't know what was going to happen. So that's why they like, man, look, just give us let's make peace. Give us a minute. See if we can get somebody to help us. If not, then, you know what I'm saying, we'll make a treaty with you, basically. So, you know what I'm saying? So that's what they told Nahash. He said, make a treaty with us and we will be your servants. They pleaded. But all right, Nahash said, but only on one condition. I will gouge out the right eye of every one of you as a disgrace to all Israel. So number two is this. This is something you're going to, number two, something else you're going to have to understand that's going to be a demand. If you really going to do the will of God, if you're really going to serve the Lord, and you're really going to be serious about the will of God, you got to understand this. There is no room for compromise in the will of God. That's something you're going to have to understand. And that's hard. It sounds simple, like, oh, yeah, I know that. No, it's not as easy as you think it is. There's no room for compromise in the will of God. Because this world is always trying to get you to compromise. It's always trying to get you, God said this, but come on. Look, that book was written. You know how many times I hear, man, that book was written thousands of years ago. That book is old. It don't apply to the modern world. Well, I don't know about y'all, but my Bible says that God is the same today and tomorrow and forever. He never changes. So if he didn't like it 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, he don't like it today. But see, what happened is over all these years, over these 1,000 years, what we've done, we've compromised. And you got to understand the price for compromising will be very heavy. You can compromise if you want to, but you're going to pay a heavy price. And that's what they were saying. They was trying to compromise. Like, look, just make a peace treaty with us. If you compromise, and that's what making peace with the world is. You know, saying that it's okay. When you got Methodist churches that's, have homosexual pastors in there, they're compromised. I think I've told y'all before. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I told y'all before. When I was working down at the Taco Bell on West End down in Nashville, right across the street from Vanderbilt University, there's a huge Methodist church down there. Huge, old. It looked ancient. It was definitely built like early 1900, if not 1800. Ancient. I've never been to it, so I don't know exactly. But it's an old, ancient church. And I'll never forget when the first week where homosexual marriage got legalized. I remember driving by there on my way to work, driving by past that church, and the door was a huge entrance, and it had a huge rainbow flag over the door of the church. You see what I'm saying? That's compromise. And see, it's and like I said, you can compromise when you say things, when God say things are wrong and you say they're okay, that's compromise. And if you're going to be in the will of God, there's no room for compromising. You know what I'm saying? There's no room for compromise. And that's the hard thing to do because everybody else is going to want you to. The world is going to want you to compromise. The world is going to want you to go along with their narrative, but you can't do that. You can't do that. And it's going to actually lead to our next point, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. But you can compromise if you want to. But if you do, then you're going to pay a heavy price. And that's what they were doing. They were trying to compromise with this Nahash guy. He's like, okay, I compromise with you, but I'm going to take your right eye. And if you look from the little paragraph that I read from you, every Israelite on the east side had already compromised because it says not a single. He said he gouged out the right eye of each of the Israelites living there, and he didn't allow anyone to come and rescue them. In fact, of all the Israelites east of the Jordan, there wasn't a single one, not one, that hadn't compromised, is basically what this is saying. In fact, of all the Israelites east of the Jordan, there wasn't a single one whose right eye Nahash had not gouged out. But there were 7,000 men who had escaped from Jabesh Gilead. So of all the one, on every Israelite on the east side, they had all compromised at some point. And they allowed this man to pull their eye out. instead of putting their faith and trust in God. So that's what you got to understand. When you come, there's no room. Number two, there's no room for compromise in the will of God. You know what I'm saying? There's no room. And if you do compromise, the price you pay is going to be a heavy one. Because what you got to understand, the reason why that is compromise, and this a lot of people don't realize. They say, oh, compromise is just, oh, we just do whatever to get the people to come into the church and get them to like us so we can get God to them. And that's what they say. They make it sound good because they sugarcoating it. But in reality, when you compromise, you're actually being disobedient. When you compromise, that's compromisation. I don't know if that's a word, but when you compromise, that is disobedience. You know, either you do what God say or you don't. There is no in between. And that's what we try to do. We try to compromise. Well, we'll give them this. We'll give them a little bit here and a little bit there. And you compromise here, you compromise there. And before you know it, you've completely gone under the will of God. And that's what happened. When we look at our world today, if we look at our world today and we look at all the problems we see that's going on in our world today, you can name any topic that's going on in our world today, anything that you see and you know, like, man, this is wrong, this is bad. We know it's wrong, we know it's bad, but yet it's prevalent in our society. If you look at any one of them, every single issue, you can take any one, every single one can go back to us compromising. Us compromising as Christians, us compromising as a nation, us compromising as people. Every single problem that we have right now going on is from us compromising. You know what I'm saying? And I just wrote something down as an example, and I can show you how it's compromising. For instance, let's take single parenting. Single parent. Look how many people have to deal with being single parent these days. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because they compromise. Because what does the Bible say? You know what I'm saying? The Bible says you shouldn't have sex before marriage anyway. Now, there might be some people that got married and got divorced and they single parents because of that, but most of the people single parents because they had sex before they ever got married. Now, I'm not getting on nobody's head because I had my first 3 before we got married, and I ended up marrying my baby mama. So it's funny because my daughters always, when they get married, divorced, they call them bastards. You know what I'm saying? My daughter, they'll tell my wife, they're like, your bastard children are here, or something like that. They mess with them because my first 3 boys, they were had before we got married, and then both of the girls were had after we got married. You know what I'm saying? So it is a funny thing, just inside joke, but they always like, your bastard children are here. But again, why does that happen? Why is it so many homes are single parent? Because we've compromised. You know what I'm saying? The Bible say no sex before marriage. You know what I'm saying? Don't fornicate. But what we say, it's okay to hook up. It's okay to shack up. It's okay to live with some guy or some girl that you're not married to. Compromise. That's old. You know, that's back in the old days they didn't do that, but now it's okay. And what happened? Now look at our population. Look at how many. Look at the percentage of people that are in home that have kids that are single parents. Why? Because we compromised. We compromised back then, and it just got worse over the years. And now, majority of the homes, majority of the kids don't have 2 parents. It's rare. And I don't know the exact percentage because I didn't look up the statistics, but I know it's rare to find 2-parent homes. It's not as prevalent as it used to be, especially not in the last 40 years. It's gotten really bad. It's gotten really bad. Most of the people I know are single parents. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, me and my wife, my girls, I guess you could say she's single parent. We were together. We had the kids. I took care of the kids, but I never lived with them. We didn't really officially move in. And as a matter of fact, the day I gave my life to God was that my baby mom, which is my wife now, she moved in the very next day. So it took me getting to God and getting right with God before I was able to do things the right way. Before I was able to stop compromising. But I had compromised well. So though I say I'm not pointing fingers at nobody, I was a part of it as well. But what happened? We've compromised over the years. Well, the Bible said don't have sex before marriage. You know what I'm saying? Be married and don't have sex before marriage and raise the kid together. He said that's why I put the men and the woman together to raise me up Christian children. The Bible say that. We say it's okay because of compromise. And then we talking about those kids. Look at all these little bad, I want to say the word is bad, kids that we got running around here. These kids are insane. These kids are out of control. Why are these kids so out of control? Because we've compromised. Because again, first of all, most of them are being raised by single parents. But secondly, what does the Bible say? Him that spared the rod hated his son. It's twice the Bible says that if you don't spank your child, you don't love your child. You know what I'm saying? The one that everybody, they always say, spread around, spoil the child. That's not what the Bible say. The Bible say, he that spared the rod hateth his son. So in other words, if you don't spank your child's butt, you hate your child. And then there's another part of Proverbs that says that, it says, there's evil bound in the heart of the child, but the rod would drive it out. So in other words, you know what I'm saying, kids they're prone to do bad. They're going to test their limits. And the only way you can get that evil out of their heart is by spanking their butt. But what do we say today? Oh, you shouldn't spank your child. That's going to traumatize them. You should put them in timeout or take something from them or put someone compromise. And now our kids are out of control. I was watching a video the other day where it was some Marines. It was somewhere, I can't remember what state it was in, but it was some Marines there, and it was some kids that's popping off fireworks. Now, if you know from PTSD and all that stuff, like Marines and people in the Army and things like that, that bothers their PTSD. So they just ask the kids, like, hey, man, could you not pop them off? And the kids just start wailing on them. A group of teenagers. Now, these are Marines. These are guys that has dedicated life, putting themselves, their health, safety, and lives at risk to protect these kids, to give them the ability to be able to do what they're doing, to popping out fireworks in the middle of nowhere for no reason. And they go and ask them nicely, hey, could you not do that? You know what I'm saying? That bothers us. That bothers our PSCD. We've been seeing the war and all that. Could you not do that? And the kids start beating these Marines down. And so it was, and y'all probably like, well, they Marines should kick their butts. No, it was like 2 Marines and like 30 kids. Like I saw the video. It was disgusting. You know what I'm saying? Just beating, all teenagers. Why? Because we've compromised. Where back in the day, if a kid knew, man, not only would my mama or my grandmother whoop my butt, if I was doing wrong at somebody's house, they had the permission to whoop my butt. Or if I was out in the neighborhood and one of the people from the neighborhood saw me doing something wrong, they had permission to whoop my butt. You know what I'm saying? It took a village to raise the kid. And we didn't have the disrespect. The kids today are immoral. They're disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? They're intolerant. They just ungrateful. I can go on and on and on. Why? Because we've compromised. See what I'm saying? That's what compromise does. We think we're helping, we just give them a little bit of leeway and bring them over to us. But no, we're ruining them. And that's what happened. That's why I say in the will of God, there's no compromise. And let's take another one. Now, like I said, I got a list of them. Abortion. What does the Bible say about abortion? The Bible, first of all, you can tell in the Bible that the child life begins at conception. You know, so you can tell that from the Bible. There's several spots. Matter of fact, I think when he was talking to Jeremiah, he said, "Before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you." So then, matter of fact, so we always make the argument that life don't start to conception and biological life does, but your spiritual life started even before that. Because how could he know Jeremiah before he formed him in his belly, unless his spirit was with the Lord? Because that's what you do when you die. Your spirit go back to where it came from. So even before you're even conceived, you're already in existence. Everybody that's going to ever live, they're already in existence, but they're in spirit form. It's not until that moment of conception that they start becoming biological form. So we know that life begins at conception. But what does the word say now? They're just a clump of cells. They're not really humans until, the third trimester, some retarded stuff like that. Compromise. You see what I'm saying? Compromise. And what does the Bible say about the slaughter of the innocent? What's more innocent and then a baby in his mother's stomach that has none, a fetus or whatever you want to call it, lump of cell, whatever, haven't done anything, didn't even ask you to be here. You was the one out there compromising with your legs open. That the reason why the kids there. And yes, I know every once in a while you get a situation where somebody might have got raped. That's understandable. But most of the abortions that take place is not people being raped. It's not somebody being molested in their family and they got pregnant because of it. Most of the abortion, I would say probably 90% of the abortion that take place, and again, I didn't look the number up, I'm just giving you a number because I know how these things work. 90% of the ones take place is people using abortion as birth control. Why? Because we've compromised. You know what I'm saying? And what does the Lord say? Again, over in Proverbs, he's talking about one of the things that's an abomination to the Lord. It actually used the word hate. It said these are one of the things that the Lord hates. And you know what one of those things was? It was 4 things they gave us. You know what one of them was? Slaughter of the innocents. Hands that shed innocent blood. And yet you got doctors over here actually got to cut up got instruments where they go into the woman's womb and cut the child up and bring it out by pieces to have abortion. Why? Because we've compromised. So since we've compromised, it's okay to murder children in their mother's womb. And guess what that's going to lead to? It's going to lead to more murder. It's going to move. Let's look at murder as a whole. Look how many people die on a regular basis. Look how many people die from gun violence every day. Die from stabbings and die from war and things like that. Why is that? Why is that? Because we've compromised. Because if it's okay for me to kill a baby, an innocent baby that hasn't done nothing, that still is in the mama's womb, it's definitely okay for me to kill a grown man that upset me some way, maybe because he cut me off in traffic, or because he just being a jerk, or because he yelled at me, or because he did something that made me feel uncomfortable. See, that's what you got to understand. That's a precedent you set when you start compromising. When you start getting away from the Word of God. The Word of God says you shouldn't kill. Nobody should have the right to kill anybody at all. But when you start saying, oh, it's okay if they're only a lump of cells still that's compromised. And it leads to bigger issue and worse things. So that's what compromise do. And that's why I say, if you're going to serve the will of God, there's no room for compromise. There's no room for compromisation. You can't do it because essentially, if you're compromising, you're being disobedient. Because the Lord has given us His word. He told us what He expects. He told us what He wants us to do. He told us what He wants us to not do. He's given it's clear. It's clear as day. Some you may have to interpret, but it's some stuff that's pretty clear. Matter of fact, this next one I got, y'all know I won't have to bring this in. Homosexuality. Why is that so big, right? I ain't gonna say we, because I'm not, let you know right now, I'm not celebrating this at all. But what are we currently in the midst of what they call this month? Pride Month. They actually have a whole month celebrating homosexuality and all the perverseness that comes along with it. Why? Because we compromised. 15, 20, 30 years ago, man, people were scared to come out the closet. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't that they were scared they wouldn't get hurt or nothing. It's just because they had some shame that we used to have shame. There's no shame no more. There's no shame no more. So where at first they wouldn't even come out, they wouldn't even tell people they was gay. They just kept it to themselves, which is really where it should be. I don't care who you have sex with, as long as you get the job done or you being a productive member of society. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? But now what they do, they have parades. They have a whole month celebrating. All of the big corporations, they bring out their pride flags and they decorate all their emblems and rainbow flags and things of that nature. Why? Because we compromise. See, what did it start off at? It started off, you should just, God says a man should not lay with a man. A woman should not lay with a woman. If they do so, they should be stoned because that's an abomination. That's what God says. But what do we say? Oh, just let everybody love who they want to love. Even though homosexuality have nothing to do with love. There's men in my life that are not family that have come along in my life and made an impact on my life that I love dearly. I love them. I love them like a brother. I love them like a father. And I'm not a homosexual. I'm not a homosexual until I start having sex with those people. So it has nothing to do with love, but we compromise. Oh, everybody should be able to love who they want to love, and people should be able to marry who they want to marry. If a man want to marry, and we compromise, and look where we at now. We got a whole freaking month where they've just taken over a whole month that they celebrated. And I don't think it's no coincidence that it's the same month that we celebrate Father's Day. Because they want men to be women anyway. Because if there's no strong men, the devil going to really take over this nation and do what he wants to with it. And that's what's been happening. That's why you see this nation going on, what's going on. And what happened? We compromised on the homosexuality, made it legal, and now what we dealing with? Transgenderism. Oh my gosh. It isn't got out of control. It's just spiral. I don't know. Something about that just boils my blood when I talk about it. Because it's so ignorant. You know what I'm saying? It should be simple. A man cannot be a man and a woman cannot be a woman. I don't care what you put on. I don't care how many surgeries you have. It's impossible. You cannot be a woman. And if you're a man, born a man, you cannot be a woman. I don't care what you feel inside. You know what I'm saying? You cannot be a woman. I even saw one, it was a man and this is how ridiculous it is. It was a man, he was born a man, decided that he was going to become a woman, and then decided once he become a woman, he was going to be a lesbian. You see, that's insane to me. You still just well, I'm a lesbian because I'm still attracted to women. No, you're attracted to women because you're a man. It's not because you're a lesbian, because you're not really a woman. And you got people, you got actual professors, you have doctors, you have people, educated people, supposedly educated people that will argue you up and down that a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man. They are teaching this to our kids, the college kids in school. You can go to any college campus and ask them, can a man be a woman? They'll be like, yeah, sure, they can be. Or can a woman be a man? Yeah, sure, they can be. Whereas back in the day, like, hey, nah, you retarded? You know what I'm saying? That was something, you have to be retarded or mentally ill to believe that. But now we celebrate that mental illness. Why? Because compromise. We've compromised. So y'all see my point? That's why there's no room to compromise when you're dealing with the will of God. Because when you compromise here, once you start compromising, all you're going to do is keep compromising. And before you know it, you're completely out of the will of God. So we saw how the single parenting led to the bad, out of control kids. It's led to the abortions, which is led to murder. You know what I'm saying? We compromised the homosexuality. Now it's led to transgenderism, and it's leading to, and I don't know if y'all noticed this, it's leading to a pedophilia. You know what I'm saying? Pedophilia, kids are being groomed. They got drag queens going to schools, doing shows, you know what I'm saying, twerking their butts and flipping upside down in church in front of kids. What is the point of that? What is the point? What are they getting out of drag queens reading stories to our kids? You know what they're getting out of it? Because it fathers their agenda. You know what I'm saying? It's going to get the kids ready for this perverse world that they're growing up in. That's what it's doing. And next thing you know, in bestiality, all the stuff, the perverse stuff that the Bible said is wrong. Everything that the Bible said is wrong, we're saying is right because we've compromised. Yes, ma'am, they are mocking Jesus. Matter of fact, I was watching this story the other day where the LA Dodgers, there's this group called the Sisters of, it's weird satanic. It's basically these men just dress up as nuns. And they're like basically anti-Catholic. So anything, you know what I'm saying, and the LA Dodgers, a professional baseball team, was going to honor them and get him like some kind of honorary, like, some award, basically like Citizens of the Year award kind of thing. And it's these men dressing up as nuns mocking the Catholic faith. You know what I'm saying? It's insane, mocking Christianity essentially. And they was getting, and they're more about devil worship and things like that. We had the situation here with Target. You know, Target been in some hot water because they had a Satanist design clothes, LBGT clothes, and they had a whole section in Target for Pride Month that this Satan person and the clothes had stuff like, Satan love pronouns, things like that. You see what I'm saying? Why? They're grooming our children. They're pulling us away from God because we've compromised. And see, you think, oh, well, we're just including, every company, even my company got it now, diversity and equity and inclusion. We just want to include them. We just want to include. Yes, Ashley, look it up. Look it up. Look up the Target. Target is going through right now. They hired it's a dude. I'm not playing the pronoun. It's a dude, and he's a Satanist, and he designed this whole line of LGBT clothing for children, and they had the section in Target. You know what I'm saying? This guy was a Satan, and on some of the clothes it says something like Satan love pronouns and things like that, and that's what Target had. Yeah, Satan love pronouns, exactly. That's the kind of stuff that's going on. Why is it like this? When we look at this, like, man, this is going crazy. Because we compromise. We want to include everybody. We want everybody to feel safe. You know what? It's not meant for everybody to feel safe. The word of God doesn't say that everybody's supposed to be saved. That's why the word of God says separate yourself. Everybody ain't going to be able to get into heaven. You know what I'm saying? Everybody ain't going to be, God ain't going to get like, well, I want everybody to get into heaven. And you have these fake preachers that teach everybody's going to get into heaven. No, everybody's not going to get to heaven. Everybody's not going to be saved from the wrath of God. No, it's not going to happen. That's not how things work. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, Alicia, Satan's loved you. Look it up, Ashley. I don't know. I thought you would have heard of it by now, but yes, they had the guy that was a Satanist, and of course he called himself non-binary, but he's a guy, and he designed this whole LGBT line and put it in Target. Target have it in there. No, in the kids section, it wasn't adult clothes. It was kids clothes. I'm talking about onesies and everything, and it says stuff like Satan loves you and Satan loves pronoun. How do we get this far gone? Because we compromise. And that's my whole point in all this. And I didn't mean to go and just get my blood boiling when I see this stuff, because it's insanity to me. because I get into the Word of God and I know what the Word of God says about these things. And we all know what the Word of God says about these things, but what have we done over the years to make everybody feel included? We compromise. We've compromised. And because we've compromised, we're paying a heavy price now. Because we compromise, we're seeing murders every single day. Because we compromise, we're seeing school shootings just about every single month. You know, every other month there's a school shooting, some kind of mass shooting somewhere. Because we compromise, we got a Pride Month that they're celebrating right now. Because we compromise, there's 3,000 abortions a day, 3,000 innocent babies a day being killed. Because we've compromised. That's what compromisation does, and that's why I said number 2. There's no room for compromise in the will of God. There's no room for the compromise. There's no room for it. If you're going to really make that decision that you're going to follow the will of God, these are things, and that's why I said this is hard. This is hard to deal with. You know, that's why I want to do this lesson, let you know the demands of the dealing the will of God. Because I've been teaching y'all how great it is. I've been teaching you the success that comes from it. But let me teach you the downside of it, what you have to deal with. And it's a lot to deal with. And this is one of the things you have to deal with. You can't compromise. Because like I said, the price for compromise is going to be a heavy price. And what we're seeing going on in society right now, the reason why our society is melting down right now, the reason why we're on our way to destruction right now, because of all the compromise that we've done all over the years. Instead of saying, no, a man can't marry a man, a woman can't marry a woman, and leaving it at that, y'all want to have a domestic partnership or whatever, that's on y'all. Y'all can call it whatever you want to, but you're not going to call it marriage, and we're not going to legalize it. You know what I'm saying? But we want everybody to feel safe. We want everybody to have a safe place. And that's what we do. We compromise. And like I said, I'm not saying that the world are doing it. The churches are doing it. Actually, that's why that's the worst part of the churches are doing it. The churches are the one doing it. Matter of fact, I saw, like I said, I watched a lot of videos and stuff. They got like YouTube videos, shorts and things like that. They actually having Satan, just like they used to have Bible studies in churches and things like that. They're actually having Satan and seances and stuff like that in the schools. Like they used to have Bible studies in the school. You used to be able to go to school and read your Bible, do things like that. No, but they can go and worship Satan in school. They can go see drag queens shake their booties in school. You can do that in school, but you better not talk about God in school. You better not bring the Bible up in school. Why? Because we compromise. When we let them take prayer out of school, we compromise. You see what I'm saying? When we let them take the Bible out of school, we compromise, and look at the price that we're paying now. Our society is being destroyed from within right now, and it's all because we started compromising. So that's number 2. And I went a little long on there. The first 2 is just because, like I said, these are things you have to deal with. This is stuff that as a minister of the lost sheep and the things that I've been dealing with as lost sheep, these are things that I have to deal with. And these things burden me. It burdened me because I can see it. I can see the evil behind it. I can see what they're trying. I can see the tricks that Satan are using. I can see what he's doing to destroy our society and destroy our kids. You know what I'm saying? I can see it, but all I can do is just preach it and bring it to y'all attention. But everything I'm saying, you can get on online, and I'm not just making up stuff and just putting up, but everything I'm saying, you can get online right now and go look it up. Everything that I told you about the guy, the Satanist that designed the LGBT clothes and the drag queen stripping, all that stuff. Why? But why? Again, it goes back. Why? Everything that I'm talking about here, everything I'm preaching about, everything that we seeing is wrong, that we know is wrong. Why is it going on? Why is it so prevalent in our society? Because we've compromised. We allowed it to happen. Trying to make everybody feel happy. Trying to make everybody feel included. Everybody's not supposed to be included. And that's why I say, as a matter of fact, that's one of my points. And I think I'm going to get to it the next one. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Over Matthew 7, 13 to 29. That's why I talk about the narrow gate. You know what I'm saying? It says, broad and wide is the pathway that leads to destruction, but the gate that leads to heaven is narrow. And there's only a few of them that's going to find it. Why? Because everybody's compromised. Everybody's compromised. So number 2, and that's the hefty price that because we've compromised, like I said, when you see the destruction of our society and the direction our society is going in right now, it's all because of the compromise that we've been doing all these years. Matter of fact, starting back in the 60s when they took the Bible out of school and they took prayer out of school, that's when it started, and it's just been getting worse ever since. And now we have what we have here today. So number 2, there's no room. If you're going to serve the Lord, and you're going to do this will that I've been telling y'all about. I know I've been making it sound good because I've been talking about the success and how to deal with success and all that. But now you got to understand, this is the kind of thing, these are the demands. This is what you got to deal with if you're going to follow the will of God. So number 1, number one was there's going to be some opposition from the world, and number two is there's no room for compromise in the will of God. And if you do compromise, the price for compromise will be a heavy one, because compromisation, and like I said, I don't know if that's a word, but I'm saying it because it sounds good. But when you compromise, it is really disobedient against the will of God, and you have to understand that. And that's why there's no room to compromise, because if you do, you get what we have now in our country today, which is a mess. So that's number two. So I've only got to the first two verses, y'all, and I'm just going. So let me get verse number 3. So verse number 3 was going to be point number 3. It says this. He says, so give us 7 days to send messengers throughout Israel, replied the leaders of Jabesh Gilead. And if none of our relatives would come to save us, we would agree to your term. So again, they try to make this, they're trying to compromise. And he's telling them, all right, I'll make a treaty with you, but I got to pull out your eyes. And they're like, well, give us a few days. And if nobody come to rescue us, then we'll agree to your term. We'll let you pull our eyes out. We'll compromise for you. Because they left their land because they didn't want to compromise, but the world beat them down. See, the world beat them down. That opposition came, and they're like, you know what? We're going to have to go ahead and compromise. He said, but just give us a couple more days. And if you give us a couple more days, nobody come to help us out, we'll go ahead and compromise. That's what they're saying. So they said, give us 7 days to send message throughout Israel, replied the leaders of Jabesh, and if none of our relatives will come to save us, we will agree to your terms. So number 3 is this. This is something else you're going to have to deal with. This is another one of the demands of doing the will of God. And I kind of spoke on it a little bit in point number 2, but number 3 is this. You may find yourself standing alone. If you're going to really, truly, wholeheartedly follow the will of God, you may find yourself standing alone following that will. It's not going to be, though I say it's not going to be easy. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be easy. You know what I'm saying? You gotta understand, you might find, because the righteous path is a lonely path. And like I was kind of leading to toward the end, I'm going to read it to you what he says over here in Matthew chapter 7. I'm actually just going to read verses 13 and 14. He says, you can enter God's kingdom only through the narrow gate. So it says a narrow gate. He says the highway to hell is broad, and this gate is wide for many who choose the easy way. But the gateway to life is small, and the road is narrow, and only a few ever find it. So if only a few ever find it, then guess what? You're not going to come across a lot of people that's really willing to serve the will of God. And that's why I say you might end up being alone, because it's not going to be a large concentration in the area that you're in. Even in the little small town I'm in, it's only a few people that I know that truly serve the Lord, and have given their heart to doing His work and building His kingdom. So that's something you got to understand. If you somebody that always got to have people around, you always got to have friends, you always got to have people to encourage you and hype you up, then this task, this following this will of God might not be for you. You know what I'm saying? It not be for you. See, you might find yourself that the righteous path is the lonely path. So you got to think about it. Think about Jesus. And I got some examples. Think about Jesus when He was going through the crucifixion. That was a rough time in His life. That was the roughest point in His life. I'm pretty sure it was. You know what I'm saying? He was being beaten and you know what I'm saying, and mocked and spit on and punched, and they was pulling the hair out of His beard and all those kind of things. I mean, he was in bad shape. You know what I'm saying? And at the point now, before that happened, what did he have? He had thousands. You know what I'm saying? He has thousands of people following him. You know what I'm saying? He even had his inner circle. He had 12 guys that was with him. He had one that said, oh Lord. When he says that, man, I'm about to be crucified. And what did Peter jump up and say? Oh Lord, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? He said, matter of fact, Jesus told, he said, I'm about to be crucified. I'm about to be, go through this, this little trial. And all of y'all going to abandon me and desert me. And what did Peter? Oh no, everybody else will leave you, but I'm not going to leave you, Lord. No, them other jokers, they might be fake. They might leave you, but I'm not going to leave you, Lord. Whatever you go through, I'm going to go through. And what happened? And what did Jesus tell him? Before the cock crowed, you're going to deny me 3 times, Peter. You sit here and saying you're going to go through all this, but you're going to deny me 3. You're going to compromise. You know what I'm saying? Before the cock crow, and it's 2 versions. One, most of them says, I think 2 of them says before the cock crow, and then one of them says, I can't remember which one is which. It says before the cock crows twice. But either way, he told Peter, you sit here making this bold prediction and proclamation, but when it comes down to it, when I really get in the thick of it, you're going to compromise, and I'm going to be here by myself. And what happened when they came and took Jesus away? You know what I'm saying? Peter, he followed along. He followed along. You know what I'm saying? He followed along and watched from a distance. And when he got to the gate, remember the girl said, "Hey, ain't you with Jesus?" Oh, no, I don't know him. Compromised. Then he got inside and said it was warm to sit by the fire. So I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure, that you know Jesus. No, I don't know him. And then he said a little later on, somebody else heard him talk like, yeah, you got that Galilean accent there. You definitely was one of his followers. And then it said he cursed and swore that he didn't know him. And right at that moment when he did that, that's when the car crew. You see what I'm saying? He compromised. See, and what happened? Jesus went into that by himself. Now, some of his followers was watching off in the distance, and I know if you look at the John's version, it said that his mom and I think Mary and a couple of others was there. Some of the women was there, but none of his inner circle was there. When he was on that cross, he was by himself. And so you got to understand that if you're going to follow the will of God, you might end up by yourself. It's not easy. It's not something easy to do. That's why I say, y'all, I hope this don't deter y'all from following the will of God. But I'm gonna let you know it's not an easy task. That's why, like I said in the beginning, that's why not a lot of people do it. It's not very easy. It's very demanding. It's very demanding, especially with the world, because all the world want to do is pull you out of the will of God. You know what I'm saying? The people in your own world. Matter of fact, like I said, these Ammonites that are oppressing them, they're their cousins. They're related. They're like second or third cousins, but they're basically family. Their own family is the one that's oppressing them, coming out and pulling their eyes out and oppressing them. Their own family doing it. You see what I'm saying? And that's what this world want to do. It want to pull you out of the will of God. So it's hard. You know what I'm saying? I brought up Joseph earlier. I told y'all Joseph gonna come up again. Think about Joseph in Egypt. Again, you know what I'm saying? He's with his brothers, love his brothers. You can tell he loved his brothers, but brother never really loved him. You know what I'm saying? Dad kept him separate from his brothers. Whenever he wanted to go around and play with his brothers, if you read the story, it said they never had a kind word to say to him. You think he wasn't depressed? I saw somebody mention something, I can't see it now, but mention something about teen depression. You think he wasn't depressed? The fact that his brother wouldn't hang out with him and wouldn't spend time with him, and whenever he came along, they turned their back on him because, you know what I'm saying, because he was dad's favorite. You think he wasn't depressed? You think he wasn't in sorrow? Sorrow's gonna come with that's part of something. That's part of. You think he didn't feel lonely, and that's gonna come with it. That loneliness is gonna come with it. When he was in Egypt, he was by himself. He was in a foreign land. He didn't know nobody there. Only person he had with him was Jesus. And that's what you understand. You know, and I said you might find yourself standing alone. Now, when I say alone, I forgot to point that out. When I say standing alone, I mean like you won't have no people around you, but the Lord is always with you. So never forget that. That was on me. You know what I'm saying? The Lord, don't forget that the Lord is always with you. But when I say standing alone, I mean as far as your peers, your family, your relatives, you won't have them around you. But the Lord is always there with you. But you gotta understand, Joseph in Egypt, he was by himself. Think about Elijah when he was out in the winter. Y'all remember when Elijah had that contest on Carmel, and he went up there and he went against the servants of Baal. And I think it was like 450 of them, and he was the only servant of the Lord. He was basically the only one in the entire land that was actually serving the Lord. And then they had the contest, and not to prolong it, but y'all read the story, get in your Bible and read it. But you remember he had the contest where they cut the sacrifice up, and he told them 450 that y'all do y'all thing, and I'm gonna do my thing, and whoever God sends down fire and consumes the sacrifice, that's the real God. And remember, of course, they cut theirs up, and they did all kind of weird stuff and was cutting themselves and chanting, and nothing never happened. And then Elijah came, and not only did he rebuild the altar of God and put his sacrifice on, he poured water over it. Then he called out to the Lord and like, Lord, show them who the real God is. And the Lord said it sent down flame, and not only did it take up the sacrifice, it took up all the wood, it took up the bricks, and it took up the water and the area around it. You see what I'm saying? And then he said, now God approving to himself, y'all take them prophets of Baal and kill them all. And they killed them all. And then when Jezebel made a threat, well, because you did that, I'm going to do, God help me if I don't do the same to you. And then what did Elijah do? Ran off into the woods, crying by himself. By himself. He was the only righteous one in the entire land. And yet he ended up in the woods by himself. He didn't have no friends. Nobody didn't want to be around him. Why? Because he was bringing in righteousness. He was bringing in truth. He was bringing in truth. And you got to understand that. That's why you're not going to always have people with you. Sometimes when I go outside winter, I'm by myself. Now, most of the time my kids go, but sometimes they just have activities. It's never a situation where they're like, we just not going. You know, sometimes they have activities where, you know, they approved activities where maybe they have a tournament or something like that, and I just end up going by myself. Like my brother, he's playing basketball, and right now they're doing traveling, so it's kind of all over, and it's on Saturday. So what I do, I take him, and while he's playing this tournament, I go out by myself and I go soul winning in whatever area we in. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you're gonna end up by yourself, and if you're gonna serve the Lord, if you're really gonna stand on God's truth, you're going to. You're going to have to stand by yourself. You're going to have to stand by yourself sometimes. Like with this whole, like I said, the church has been compromising. You got all the businesses and everybody getting into these pronouns and celebrating Pride Month and all that. I'm not doing none of that stuff. I'm not using no pronoun. If I know that you were born a biological man, I'm gonna call you a man. That's just it. And then I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just not playing your mentally. I'm not playing into your mental. I'm not going to help you celebrate your mental illness. If I know you were born a biological man, I don't care what you feel you are. I'm gonna call you a man. If I know you were born a woman, I'm gonna call you a woman. And I'm darn sure not gonna call nobody, no single person, they, them. Like my kids were talking the other day, and they was like them. I'm like, who was them? Like, who was the other people? Like, no, it was just one person. I like, well, is it he or she? No, their pronouns are them. Like, that is not them. That is not they. If you got 2 or 3 of them, then yes, I call them them. But if it's just one, that's a he or she, and that's it. I'm not playing those games. And I might be the only one. I might get my Facebook canceled because of that. I'm not playing those games. I'm not playing these pronoun games. I'm not playing these games. I'm not celebrating Pride Month. I'm not going to tell nobody Happy Pride Month. You can kiss my booty on that one. I'm not playing those games. I'm not celebrating Pride Month. I'm not celebrating Juneteenth. I don't believe it. That's ignorant. I'm not celebrating that neither. That's stupid. I don't even celebrate Black History Month. That's stupid. Why are we constantly looking at Black History Month? If they come out with a Black Future Month, a month where Black people decide they're not going to kill each other every day, or they're going to actually go to school and work or take care of their family stuff, then I can get behind that. Something that's going to enhance our future. But Black History, I'm not worried about no Black History Month because it's American history. You know what I'm saying? I might be the only Black dude that feel like that way. I know some others that do, but I might be the only one. Whether I'm the only one or not, I don't mind standing alone. I don't mind. And you got to understand, if you're going to do that, if you're going to do the work of God, then you got to be willing to stand alone. You know what I'm saying? You got to be willing to stand alone. No, I'm not saying, I remember this weekend, and I think about it now, and I'm like, man, I was stupid. But when y'all see, when I get fired up and I'm doing God's work, I get fired up. When the Holy Spirit comes with me, I don't care what's going on. I don't care what situation I'm in. Like, I just feel invincible. I ain't gonna lie to you. I feel invincible a lot of time when I get to preach, especially when I'm out soul winning. And I was out soul winning this weekend. I was down in the projects in Jackson, and which is basically Memphis. Like, it's just about just as rough as Memphis, and that's where we at. So I was talking to this young guy, and we actually had we actually had like a good conversation, and this guy was actually pretty wise. You know what I'm saying? And we was having a good conversation, and he asked me, was I affiliated? You know what I'm saying? Basically, if you don't know, he was asking me, was I ever in the gang? Because I was telling him how I was from Memphis and how I grew up and everything and all that stuff. So, you know what I'm saying? So he was asking me, was I affiliated? And without thinking, I said, no. And he's like, I said, no. And I wasn't saying to be rude. It's just how I feel about it. He said, man, let me ask you. He said, well, I can tell, you know what I'm saying, you from the hood, blah, blah, blah. He said, were you affiliated? And I just, without even thinking, I said, no, man, because I never had a problem standing on my own. You know what I'm saying? And now I think about it, you know what I'm saying? I was now thinking about it like, oh crap. I mean, he didn't take it the wrong way, but he kind of like took back. But I guess because I was a preacher, he didn't take it like being disrespectful. But I mean, that's what I feel about gangs. Gangs are people, weak people that was too afraid to stand on their own. So they go with some other weak people that's too afraid to stand on their own. That's just how I feel about gangs. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, I got bullied. Yes, I got my butt kicked. I got bullied. I got my butt kicked. But I stood alone. I took my butt kicking. I took my bullying. And it made me a strong person. And I just kept it moving. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have to go get with 3, 4 other people and wear the same colors and do the same thing just so I can, feel it's secure in myself. And like I said, and I didn't think, I just said, dude, like, man, were you affiliated? And I said, nah, bro, I never did that because I wasn't afraid to stand on my own. And I said it just like that, and his face kind of took back like, what darn, you know what I'm saying? And then I hit myself, and then I thought, I said, well, I knew people in the gang. I said, it just wasn't for me. But it's just, like I said, it didn't hit me till later to like, man, he could have took that the wrong way and we could have had a problem right there because he had on red and stuff. So I guess he was a blood. And he's like, man, yeah. But he was a good, the thing was, though, he was a good dude. And he was like, man, and then he had some wisdom. And I can tell that God had been working on him. He had said he had got shot before. And since he's been shot, he's really been trying to get closer to God. But he's so affiliated, it was just hard for him to separate the two. And I told him, I said, bro, because you haven't really made the decision just yet. And I said, right now, what you're doing, you're still trying to kind of stand on the fence between both worlds. And I said, but it's going to come to a point where you're going to have to decide one or the other. You're not going to be able to do them both. And like I said, we had a good conversation. Cause at first he acted like, when I first walked up to him, like, oh man, I'm about to go take a shower. And you know what I'm saying? But when I got to talk to him, we still done talk about 15, 20 minutes, you know, and the good dude, you know, kind of thing. But I just thought that was funny. It didn't hit me until I was putting this together. Like, he's like, man, you a Philly? I said, nah, brother, I ain't had no problem standing on my own. And he was just like, well, damn. You know what I'm saying? And the look on his face, and then I'm like, but I said, and I said, but my friends and everybody was it. It wasn't me, kind of thing, you know. And then I just kind of changed the subject. But I ain't thinking about it. I'm in the middle of the project by myself. With me and my buddy out soul winning. He could have got me. You know what I'm saying? But again, my point to him was though, I wasn't afraid to stand alone. You know what I'm saying? Because I knew being in the gang activities, the things that the gangs in my neighborhood was doing, I knew all that stuff was wrong. So I was going to get in it just so I can feel safe. You know what I'm saying? I was safe. Well, I didn't know it at the time, but the Lord kept me safe. And like I said, yes, I've been bullied. I've been jumped. You know what I'm saying? I've been robbed. I've had stuff that probably wouldn't have happened to me had I been affiliated. But I went through those things and I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still, you know what I'm saying, here doing God's work. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because I was willing to stand alone. And if you're going to be in the will of God, that's another one of the demands. You got to be willing to be on your own. You know, I remember when I started, y'all know I got my Lost Sheep Ministry. Matter of fact, some of my members are on here right now. So we having a meeting tomorrow night. Tomorrow, I know we didn't meet last week, but we'll have a meeting tomorrow night. But for like the first 6 months, man, I was there by myself. It was some nights I was there by myself. It was a couple of nights I was by myself. And it's still going. It's been, matter of fact, July 4th coming up, it'll be 8 years since I started this Lost Sheep Ministry. You know, since the Lord put it on my heart. But there was some nights I was there by myself. But I didn't mind standing alone. And that's my whole point is, you know what I'm saying, you got to be willing to stand alone if you're going to do God's work. You know what I'm saying? I got a family that supports me, thank God. You know what I'm saying? Wife that deals with my craziness and my weird hours and you know what I'm saying, just being gone. We went to Jackson to go soul winning. I left the house at 5 o'clock Saturday evening. I didn't get back home till like 11 o'clock. Because I was in Jackson soul winning, you know what I'm saying, all evening. And plus the time it takes to get down and back. You know what I'm saying? So I was gone for a while. She deals with that. You know, I thank God. But even if she didn't, then I just have to stand alone. And that's what you got to realize. If you're going to truly, now I said not truly, now if you're going to compromise, like we were talking about earlier, and you're going to kind of be half in, half out, if you're going to compromise, then you're going to have some people that's going to be willing to be around you because you're including everybody. You being inclusive and you giving them their safe space and you're not going to say anything to offend them. But if you're going to stand on the will of God and you're really going to bring these truths, then you need to prepare to be alone. Because when you stand in the will of God will have you bringing truth to the others to the others and to the world. And the world hates that. The world hates that. The world hates when you bring truth. I did a lesson, a sermon a little while ago, and it was called "Loving the Truth, Hating the Truth Because You're Loving a Lie." And I used in there there was this prophet named Micaiah, and there was a situation with this dude named Ahab. And once again, it was a situation with Micaiah. He was the only prophet of the Lord in the land, because Israel basically turned after Solomon's son Rehoboam took over. They basically split up because the Solomon's son was a knucklehead, and they split up. And the nation of Israel started following this guy named Jeroboam, son of Nebat. And he started making idols, and they started worshiping the idols and following idols, and they turned their back on God. So at this point, Ahab come along, Micaiah, he's like one of the only prophets left, the prophet of the Lord left. So, you know, Jehoshaphat, which come from Judah, they end up turning their back on the Lord as well, but it was much later. No, he come down and they get ready to go to war, and he asked Ahab, like, hey man, is there a prophet of the Lord here? No, is there a prophet of the Lord here that we can ask if we need to go to war? Yeah, there's only one guy, but his name is Micaiah, but I hate him because he never tells me anything good. You know what I'm saying? And Jehoshaphat like, man, say that, and then let's talk to him and see what he say. And of course, Micaiah, when he prophesied bad for him. Why? Because he was telling the truth. Ahab was a wicked king. He was married to Jezebel. Everybody know who Jezebel is. Jezebel was Ahab's wife. He was a wicked king. God wasn't going to have anything good for him. So if Micaiah was going to prophesy the words of God and he was going to tell the truth, it was going to be something bad because God ain't going to bless evil. You know what I'm saying? So he was like, yeah, we got this one prophet, but I hate him. Why did he hate him? Because he always told the truth. So this you got to understand. If you're going to be in the will of God, if you're going to truly be in the will of God, you're going to serve the will of God, you need to be prepared to be alone. Because the will of God is going to have you bringing truths. It's going to have you bringing truths, and this world don't like truth. It loves the lies. That's why the world is the way it is, because the world is built on lies. That's why our country is the way it is, because it's built on lies. And that's what the world wants. So when you bring the truth, you start shining your light in their darkness. They're not going to like that. So you got to be prepared to be alone. So that's one of the demands. So again, I know these last few weeks I've been hyping y'all up about the will of God and talk about how great it is and success you'll find in it. But these are this is the thing. Like once you get into serving the will, these are the other things that you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to deal with. These are the demands of the will of God. And like I said, it's not going to be easy. You know, it's not easy to be alone. I really, went from being the life of the party and having a slew of friends to now really I only hang out with my family. Every once in a while, one of my friends will have a little get together, something we get. Matter of fact, one of my friends, his daughter's birthday was yesterday. So we went over to Smyrna because his daughter is his first child, the only child. She's 5 and she's the same age as my granddaughter. So, you know what I'm saying? So he's a good buddy of mine. I love him. Been knowing this guy for like 20 years. So we went over and hung out with them. But honestly, other than y'all, you know what I'm saying? My life, if you look at my life, especially compared to what it used to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's completely different. Cause I mean, it's lame compared to what I used to party, kick it and all that. Now, man, I go to work and come home, either spend time with my family and read my Bible or, get some sermon together, and come in and hang out with y'all and yell at y'all on Facebook. I mean, that's really all I do. You know what I'm saying? The anniversary or something come up, me and my wife, we go hang out, or the kids have some kind of activity, they doing archery tournaments or basketball tournaments, something, I go do that. But outside of family stuff and biblical stuff and work stuff, I really don't do anything. And I'm perfectly happy with it. I'm like you, Ashley. I can do that alone. Now, I'm not alone because I got my family. They support me. You know what I'm saying? But if I didn't have my family support me, I'd still be the same dude doing the same stuff. Why? Because I'm willing to stand alone. Because I understand that's one of the demands of the job. Everybody's not going to want to hear this truth. Everybody don't like the truth, especially the way the world runs today. They don't like the truth, and they ain't going to want to hear it. So most likely, I might end up standing alone, and I'm fine with that. But are you going to be fine with that? You know what I'm saying? Before, like I said, I've been telling you about success in God's will and how important it is to get in God's will. But be sure you're willing to deal with these things before you get in God's will. You know what I'm saying? So number one was one of the demand of God's will. There's going to be some opposition from this world. It's going to happen. The moment you decide to serve God's will, your word going to start falling apart. Number two, the price. There's no room for compromise in the will of God. And if you do compromise, the price you're going to pay is going to be a heavy one. And number three, you may find yourself standing alone. Those are things you got to deal with. And I'm going to do one more. I was going to stop right here. I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to stop right here. Number four. I'm going to do number 4, and we're going to stop right here. So number 4, the next verse, it says this. He says, now when the messengers came to Geba, Saul's hometown, when the messengers came to Geba, Saul's hometown, and told the people about their plight, everyone broke into tears. So number 4 is this. This is another thing that you're going to have to understand that's a part of serving the will of God and being a part of the ministry. There will be sorrows. There will be sorrows. There's going to be some troubles that's going to come. You know what I'm saying? Now outside of I always talk about the opposition. You're going to be sad some days. You know what I'm saying? I think Ashley said, you can do bad. I'm so alone, and you're going to have those days, man. You're going to be depressed. Again, look at Elijah. He just had that big, huge victory. You know what I'm saying? Had God call down fire from heaven, and had God, you know what I'm saying, call down fire, had God lick up the sacrifice and all that. And then what did he do? He went into the wilderness crying. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, he was so depressed that he asked the Lord to kill him. Lord, just kill me. Just kill one. No point of me even living. There's going to be some sorrows. My son my middle son, I don't know where he got this from, but he used to have a saying like, it ain't going to be all sunshine and rainbows. And he just used to say that all the time. But it's true. Serving the will of God, being in the will of God. It ain't going to be all sunshine. Now, it's going to be some sunshine and rainbows there, but it ain't going to be all sunshine and rainbows. It's going to be some rainy days. Matter of fact, it's going to be some stormy days. And if you're not focused on serving the will of God, if you're compromising, if you're not focused on serving the will of God, when that storm comes along, you're going to lose your focus and you're going to sink, just like Peter did. What happened? You remember when Jesus came to the disciples walking across the water? And you know what I'm saying? And what Peter, they thought he was a ghost at first and they was freaking out. And then Jesus oh, it's just me. Y'all calm down, it's just me. And what Peter said, Lord, if it is you, then call me out to the water. And he said, all right, come on out. Come on out. And then what happened? He stepped out of the boat, took a couple of steps. And you know what I'm saying? And what happened? Instead of staying focused on Jesus like he was at first, when he started looking at the storm around him. You know what I'm saying? He started looking at the waves, the big, I'm pretty sure some huge waves that was crashing all around the boat. You know what I'm saying? Raining hard. They was in the middle of like a typhoon or a hurricane or something. So instead of, you know what I'm saying, keeping his focus on Jesus, he looked away and what happened? He started to sink. You see what I'm saying? And that's what the storms do. There's going to be some sorrows there. But you got to know, after the sun comes after the rain, the rainbows come after the rain. But there's going to be some rain there. Because a lot of, and that's why I don't like a lot of these big mega churches and all this prosperity preaching. They be like, oh, something good's going to happen to you. God's going to take care of it all and all that. You know what I'm saying? You ain't have to worry about it. If you read the Bible, there's nowhere in the Bible where God say you're not going to have no problems. There's nowhere in the Bible where he said there's not going to be trouble. Matter of fact, he said specifically, he says when trouble comes. He didn't say if trouble comes. He didn't say troubles may come. He says, when trouble comes, I will be there with you in the midst. In other words, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Like I said, I love the fact, I said it earlier, I love the fact that my family supports me. I love the fact that they support my ministry and they deal with me in my Bible studies and going to church all the time and having to go soul winning all the time and always doing this church stuff. Because they're young, they don't, because you got to understand something about a minister's family. And when y'all see these preacher kids and they out here wilding out and preaching while they out here wilding out, you got to understand something. God called me to the ministry. He didn't call them to the ministry. They just, because I'm the leader of the family, they got to follow me. This is because this is the direction I'm taking the family in. But he didn't call me. He didn't call my wife to be a preacher. He didn't call my kids to be preachers. He called me to be a preacher. But they have to get into the ministry by proxy through me. So that's why when y'all see these, y'all wonder why, well, how these preachers' kids and all that? Because they got thrown to something that they really didn't agree to. They just in the family because they're part of the family. And if the preacher is a true man and he's leading his family in the right direction, he's leading them in the ministry. You see what I'm saying? So that's why you see that a lot. That's why you see the preacher. That's why y'all know the saying, preacher kids are the worst ones. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell you how many times that I was in a jail that I talked to people and they were like, oh yeah, my granddaddy was a preacher or my dad was a preacher or, you know what I'm saying, my uncle was a preacher or a deacon or something like that. And you just like, well, how you end up in there? Because their daddy was the preacher. Their uncle was the preacher. Their granddaddy was the preacher. They wasn't. And y'all have to understand that. So like I said, I love the fact that my family, they're on board with it. Yes, I'm pretty sure I get on their nerves, and sometimes, I can sit here and like my kids, they love getting the Bible. So sometimes they hate going to church. I had to get your butts up and get to church. They hate it. You know what I'm saying? So if something happened and they just got sick and tired of me and they turned their back like, you know what, I'm tired of this God stuff. That's on you. You can do the Lost Street Ministry. We don't want nothing else to do with it. I'll be sad. I would definitely be sad. There will be some sorrow there, but I will keep going. Because like I said, I'm already prepared. Like I said from the first point, I'm already prepared to stand alone. But just because I'm standing alone, just because I'm still going, don't mean I'm not hurting inside. I'll be hurting if my family left me because they're my everything. Like I told you, that's really all I got. Besides y'all, the ministry and work is my family. You know what I'm saying? So that's the only, outside of work and ministry, which are both really two different jobs. The only thing I got from as far as this world, they helped me make it through this world. They helped me get through this world is my family. So if they were to get tired of me and my preaching and leave me, or my wife just take the kids and they pack up and go somewhere, I will be hurt. I'll be hurt. There will be some sorrow there. I will keep going, but there will still be some sorrows there because I'm prepared. I know that's part of the ministry. I'm praying that they stay here. I'm praying that they keep supporting me. But if they don't, then I'm going to be hurting, but I'm going to still be preaching. I might not be as excited because I'm, dealing with depression. I might have to put on a good, strong face for you guys. But inside, I would be hurting if my wife left me or something like that and took the kids because they got tired of me and my preaching. It wouldn't be because I'm cheating or nothing like that. It'd be because they just get tired of me and my preaching. And that can happen. That's a very strong possibility. So there will be sorrows there. You know what I'm saying? Everything in the will of God is not going to all be good. That's why it says all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, to them who are called according to his purpose. In other words, y'all, all things work together good. I had a bag of chips before I started because I didn't get to eat breakfast today, eat lunch today. So I'm sorry, it's coming back up on me. But that's why it says all things work to good. Now, a lot of people like the will of God when it's good. You know what I'm saying? They want, or when it's just acceptable. But when it's bad and ugly, they get upset about it. You see what I'm saying? They get upset, but it's all things work together for good. So that means just as there's going to be some blessings there, there's going to be some success there, there's going to be some happiness there, there's also going to be some sorrows there. And we see there, these people, they went back to the town, everybody was crying because of this situation they was in. They was in a bad situation. This dude, their relatives basically oppressing them, gouging their eyes out. You know what I'm saying? Gouging their eyes out. Everybody on the east side of Jordan lost the eye to this guy. And now he's coming on the west side and he want to pray. They thought they had got away and now he done followed them over to the west side. Yes, there's some sorrow there. And that's another part of the ministry. It's going to be some sorrow there. You know what I'm saying? Right now I'm dealing with a health issue. If y'all saw my video, y'all remember a couple weeks back, I didn't post a video. And I told you I had something I had to deal with, emergency. Well, it turns out I got a lump under my left arm. And it went down. They gave me some antibiotics, like, well, maybe it's been infected, maybe it's an infection. Gave me some antibiotics and it went down. But guess what? There's still a lump there. So now I'm scheduled to go get a biopsy next week. Now I think I'm gonna be straight. I don't feel sick or nothing like that. But there is a real possibility that I can have lymphoma. You know what I'm saying? There's a possibility I have this weird, and it's not even just like a bump or something. Like, I don't know if y'all can see it good. It's not even just like, y'all can see like the little bump right there. It's like, that's huge. Like all this is just a big knot. And it's got a weird shape to it. Like, it's not just like a bump and then got swollen. It's got this weird shape to it. So right now, I'm dealing with a health crisis. I'm praying that it's just, some kind of infected cyst. And that's what they said. Because when the original saw it, they said, oh, it's just a cyst that it got infected. We'll have it removed. And matter of fact, the doctor wasn't going to even do an ultrasound. She said, well, we'll just go ahead and have an ultrasound on it. She said, we'll just go ahead and have an ultrasound on it. So when the doctor go in and remove it, then he'll know what he's looking at. So, and they had scheduled the removal of it like June the 7th, which would have been tomorrow. So then, like last Monday, I got a text from the surgery place like, hey, we want to confirm your appointment for tomorrow at 8:00. I'm like, well, I don't have an appointment tomorrow because it was like the 23rd. I'm like, I don't have an appointment tomorrow at 8:00. And so I called them like, hey, I think it was a mix-up. I'm not supposed to come in June the 7th. And they're like, no, your doctor, when they looked at your ultrasound, they said you need to get in like immediately. So I'm like, okay, that ain't good. So I go to the next day. I go there and talk to the doctor. And apparently, when they looked at it, they thought it was just a cyst. But when they looked at it, it's actually my lymph nodes are swollen. And he said there's only one or two reasons that happens. Is that either there's some reaction and there's an infection there, or you have cancer. That's the only one or two reasons. So I have a 50% chance of it being a cyst or some kind of cyst that got in there and swole up. And I also have a 50% chance of being cancer. And y'all see I'm still here preaching y'all with the fire in my heart. Because it ain't no point in me worrying about it until I know for sure what it is. And then once I know for sure what it is, I deal with it. So that's why I ask y'all, keep me in your prayers. I go in for a biopsy next Wednesday. And that's the crazy part. The next Wednesday, the biopsy ain't until they knew this 3 weeks ago, and the appointment for the biopsy ain't until next week. So it'll be another, I think they said is the biopsy on the 14th. So y'all be praying for me. I go in the 14th at 1:00. Be praying for me, please. And once I get the biopsy on the 14th, they said it takes about a week to get the results back. So it's going to be another 2.5 weeks, basically, before I even know what's going on. But right now, I could possibly have cancer. So if I do get the biopsy, I do get the report back, and it is the C word, I'm going to be a little sad. I'll be a little like, dang, you know what I'm saying? I'm just getting this thing going, and I've been working on it 8 years to get it going. There's going to be some sorrow there. But guess what? Until I can't preach no more, I'm still going to be preaching. And still I can't do the lost sheep ministry no more, I'm still going to do the lost sheep ministry. It's not going to stop anything. because I'm already expecting it's part of it. And I'm not going to be like, God, why are you doing like this? I'm too young and I'm doing all this work and you're going to take me from my family. No, that's part of it. I'm in God's will. Whatever he wants, I'm happy to still be here. No, I really should be here 20 years ago. I was doing stupid stuff. I really shouldn't be here. You see what I'm saying? I shouldn't be here anyway. So either way it go, again, I think it's just going to be a cyst. I don't think nothing major. But there is, at the same time, there is a real possibility. I got to, you know what I'm saying, deal with it with. So I've been praying on it. I have y'all pray for me. But there's a possibility I could have cancer. I will keep y'all posted. And like I said, let y'all know. Y'all keep me in your prayers. I go in for my biopsy next Wednesday, which is June the 14th. And I should know by the 21st or so exactly what's going on. But I'm not freaking out. I ain't posting nothing on Facebook about it. I'm not freaking out. I'm only talking to y'all because y'all my family. Because y'all let me run my mouth for a couple of hours. You know what I'm saying? I'm just telling y'all, so keep me in your prayers. But I'm not freaking out about it. And like I said, if I do get it and I find out it's an aggressive form and I only got a few more months to go, it's going to be some sorrow there. It's going to be some sorrow there. But guess what? I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. You got to understand that. Again, I bring up Joseph again. Joseph was in like all my examples. Look at what Joseph did. He was in Egypt. Slave brothers, rejecting him, sold him into slavery. I'm pretty sure there was some sorrow there. He was there for 20 years by himself. You know what I'm saying? The Lord kept him protecting him, and the Lord was blessing him and giving him all these gifts and talents that he was using. But I'm pretty sure he had some dark days while he was there by himself because of the reason he ended up there. But guess what? He kept going. He kept going. There was some sorrow there. He kept going. You know what I'm saying? Because that's part of it. We have to understand that. Elijah in the wilderness, I just brought him up a second ago. He just had that big old miracle, you know what I'm saying, killed the Lord sent down fire from heaven. Then he killed all of the prophets of Baal. And then he went into the wilderness crying, Lord, won't you just kill me? He said, Lord, I'm just so sad, just kill me. There was some sorrow there. That's part of it. Jonah and Nineveh. You know what I'm saying? Jonah, remember he tried to run away from Nineveh. The Lord, you know what I'm saying, tried to get on the ship to go the opposite way. The Lord caused a storm to come up. He was in the fish for 3 days. I'm pretty sure pretty sad in that fish because he probably thought he was going to die. You know, he's in the belly of a fish. Who's ever heard of that? Who's done that before and who's done that since? Nobody. So I'm pretty sure he was expecting to die. I'm pretty sure there was some dark times in there. But when that fish spit him back up on the beach, what did he do? He was so happy. He said he ran and he preached and the whole town got saved. But even after the whole town got saved and he saw that big miracle that the Lord did, he was still upset because the Lord did it. And then he went there and wished to die. He was said he set him a little booth up outside the city to see if the Lord was going to destroy the city. And he went there hoping that the Lord would destroy the city. And when he got so upset he wanted to die. Why? Because there was some sorrow there. So that's going to be a part of it. So y'all don't listen to these prosperity preachers and get y'all to feeling, oh, everything, you just give it to God and it's going to be all right. No, you're going to have some problems. Look at Job. Look at Job. Job was a perfect example of a perfect servant. I mean, and this is not me just saying, oh, God, Job was perfect. God himself said, hey, you see my servant Job. Job had been so good that God was bragging on him. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, that's how the whole thing got started. God was bragging on him. And they were like, well, I bet if you do this, and that, he won't be your perfect little servant. God himself was bragging on Job. You know what I'm saying? What happened? God allowed the devil to touch him, took every in one day. He went from being the richest man and having everything a man can want to having absolutely nothing. But what did he say? The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. And then the next thing you know, he said what? Oh, I bet if you take his health, he'll curse you to your face. So he allowed him to, he said, you can take his health, but you can't take his life. So he allowed him to take his health, gave him this horrible disease where he had boils all over his body from head to toe. So it was so bad that he had to take shards of a broken part and scrape his skin to get some relief. That's how bad it was. But what did he say? Did he ever curse God? Now, it was some sorrow there because you remember, if you go back and you look at one of his speeches, matter of fact, the first time Job spoke, because you remember his friends showed up and then, you know what I'm saying, he was laying on the ground. He said he was in so sorrow that his friend, I think they sat there for like 3 days, didn't even say nothing. They just laid down, sat down on the ground with him because they didn't know what to say. He was in such bad shape. And then when he finally opened his mouth and started talking, what did he say? I cursed the day that I was born. Why did my mama, we were talking about abortion earlier, he was basically like, why did my mama have an abortion? Why would I even born? Why am I even here? You know what I'm saying? Just to suffer through all this. You know what I'm saying? He started going off. Why? Because there was some sorrow there. There's going to be some sorrow there. You got to understand, there's going to see the fact that, you know what sorrows me the most? The thing that brings sorrow to me the most, especially with dealing with this ministry, is the fact that I can't save everybody. Because I really do. I want to save everybody. Everybody that I've ever preached to, everybody I've ever shared the gospel with, everybody I've ever talked to, I want to save everybody. And I had to come to the hard realization, and it breaks my heart, that I can't save everybody. And the worst part about that, not being able to save everybody, because I know y'all think like, well, you can't save it. You can't, see the people over in Africa and all that stuff and all. You can't save everybody anyway. The worst part of that is not the people that I can't save. Most of them are the ones that's closest to me. That's what breaks my heart the most. So I can talk to y'all. I can go out and soul win and freaking Jackson and the projects and motivate people and encourage people to have a relationship with the Lord. I can do it all day. But the ones that's closest to me are the hardest one for me to get through to. That breaks my heart. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I got people that I'm close to. I want to call them out because sometimes they watch the video. But I got people that are near and dear to my heart. Good people. Not even no malice in there, but they just don't have no relationship with the Lord. They don't have no relationship with the Lord. And if they don't develop a relationship with the Lord before they go through their door called death, I know that they're going to be it. And that's going to break my heart. So there's going to be some sorrow. If you serve the Lord, even if you're following his will perfectly and you in the smack dab, I don't know what smack dab is, but if you smack dab in the middle of his will, even if you smack dab in the middle of his will, you're still going to experience some sorrows. So don't let these preachers come along, these prosperity preachers and these Joel Osteen and all these people tell you just get them money and come to their church and all that and everything's going to be good because God is going to take care of you. So no, there's going to be some sorrow there. That stuff is you're going to deal with some sorrows. But that shouldn't stop you from following his will. You just need to know that that's going to be a part of it. And that's why I'm doing this lesson. Like I said, for the last few weeks, I've been doing this lesson telling y'all about how great the will is. I've been telling y'all how much success you can get from the will, but now I'm telling you what the will is going to demand of you, what you're going to have to deal with when you get to serving this will. And one of them is sorrows. So I'm going to finish up there, y'all. That's it. So number 4, like I said, if y'all just came in toward the end, go back and watch the rest of the video. I know it's a little longer than normal because I'm usually out here about 1 hour and 45 minutes and it's right at 2 hours. But it's just, man, like I said, this is a good one. Y'all got to understand it, especially if you're going to really follow that will. So number 1 from the night, there's going to be some opposition from this world. The moment you decide to be serious about the will of God, that's when your world going to seem to fall apart. Number 2, there's no room for compromise. The price of compromise will be a heavy one. Number 3, you may find yourself standing alone. The righteous path is a lonely path. And number 4, there will be sorrows. It's not going to be if trouble comes. It's not going to be troubles may come. Troubles will come. But you got to remember that when troubles come, the Lord will be there with you in the midst. So with that being said, I'm going to end right there, y'all. We made it through about half of the chapter, so I did pretty decent. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and do my ending announcements, and then I'm going to get out of here because I am a little bit over time tonight. So first of all, as always, if there's anything in particular I haven't already covered preach out or any stories y'all want me to cover, maybe something you're dealing with in your life right now, reach out to me and let me know. I can definitely work that into my lesson plan. But as for right now, God will, next Monday, I'll be back 7 o'clock. We're going to do part 2 of this lesson. So if y'all really enjoyed this, which most of y'all stayed in here the whole time, if you really enjoyed this and this really helped you, please be back next Monday and we're going to get to should be able to get through the second half of it. It should be just a 2-part series. I haven't really put my points together for the last one, but it should be a 2-part series. But that's the plan for next week. Keep sharing the videos, telling other people about the videos as well. They help this ministry grow and just help this stuff get out there, y'all. It's not about glorifying myself. It's about getting these truths out there because I know if people can just be willing to make the sacrifice and put in the time to watch these videos, I know these videos can really help people change their lives, and that's the whole goal of them, to help them have a close relationship with the Lord. So keep sharing the videos, telling people about the videos, tagging people in the videos. I appreciate y'all work on that. And of course, if you're not 100% sure about your salvation, please reach out to me and let me know, and we can schedule some time to go over the gospel with you and let you know what you need to know, or give you the gospel that you need to know so you can make the decision to accept the Lord Jesus Christ as your Savior. And as always, you need any kind of spiritual counseling, got any questions about the Bible or anything like that, reach out to me and let me know, and I will schedule some time to talk to you and do my best to share the wisdom that the Lord has given me with you. And as always, if you want to watch the old videos, you go to my YouTube page. I forgot yesterday, we was at a birthday party yesterday, so I got that kind of late, so I didn't get to download the video from last week. last week's lesson. I don't have that on YouTube yet, but I will get that on when I put this one on this week. So again, if you want to go check out my old videos, and it's a lot easier instead of scrolling up and down a Facebook page, just go to my YouTube page, type in God, or we'll go to youtube.com, type in God Servant / Lost Sheep Ministries, and you can find it that way. So again, I'm not kind of rushed through the announcements, but I'm way over my time, so I want to go and get this ended so y'all can get back to your night. But I appreciate y'all for being here. Again, y'all don't know how much that encourages me. I'm happy I can be here. Again, y'all keep praying for me. I don't know, like I said, I'm not worried about it. I mean, it's there, but I'm not worried. Y'all see, I'm not stressed. I'm still, bringing the word, and there's nothing I can do until I know for sure what needs to be done. And once I find out what needs to be done, we'll proceed from there. So for right now, y'all just continue to pray for me, and I pray for y'all as I always do. And remember the most important part is making sure you have that close relationship with the Lord, which is the whole point of this lesson. And and living according to His will. And like I said, living according to His will sounds good. There's success in it, but it's going to cost a lot for you to do it. So be willing to be able to deal with those demands that's going to come along with serving the Lord's will wholeheartedly if you do decide to do that. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pray, and I'm going to get out of here, y'all. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us tonight. Thank you so much for this wonderful lesson that you gave me. It wasn't the direction I thought it was going to go in, but that's how your spirit worked. Your spirit take it where it need to go. And I think that we hit the nail on the head with some of these demands. A lot of people, because I'm always talking, like I said, I'm always talking about your will, and I'm always talking about how good your will is and how great it is to be in your will. But I never really talked about what the sacrifice that had to be made and the work that has to be done and the demands of being in your will. And it's not an easy task, Lord. But I pray that as these people watch these videos and I'm praying I'm not scaring them away from your will. That's not my goal, but helping them just be prepared for when they do decide to serve your will. Let them know what's going to come up, because the world will try to fool them in thinking, or even some churches will try to fool them in thinking, it's easy peasy, lemon squeezy, and it's not. It's very demanding and it's very hard. That's why a lot of people don't do it. But if you can do it and stick with it, it's definitely worth it. So I just pray you continue to be with us as we finish up this night, Lord. Be with all those that's watching this video, whether they watch it live or whether they watch it later on. I pray these words will touch their heart, sink into their heart, and still get them the conviction to want to give even though I know this probably sounds a little terrible tonight and sound a little discouraging, but I pray that it will still bring them under conviction and give them the want to serve your purpose, your will for their lives. Just keep your healing hand upon everybody that's dealing with any illnesses right now. And like I said, I'm definitely dealing with one, but I'm putting it in your hands, man. Until we know for sure what it is, I got faith that it's going to work out. However it's going to work out, it's going to work out the way that it needs to. And my full faith is in you to take care of this. So I just ask you to be with me and anybody else that's going through any health problem right now. You are the Jehovah Rapha, the God that heals. And I know just one touch from your hand can take care of all this. But either way it go, Lord, whether it's good or bad, whether I got the C word or not, I'm still going to honor and glorify your name and praise you with whatever time I do have left here on this earth, because I'm locked down in your will, and I'm going to know that just the sorrows that comes along with it is all part of it, Lord. And I pray you just be with us all. Give us your power, love, and wisdom over any problem that arise that may keep us doing your work this week. Pray we have a good, safe week, a protected week, a guided week, a blessed week, Lord. Just use us, guide us to where we need to go so we can do the work you have for us to do, so we can honor and glorify your name and build your kingdom. Be with all those that serve, all those that's in the military and things of that nature, Lord, that put their lives in health and risk for the lives and health of others, law enforcement and rescue services. Be with them and keep them safe and protected as they serve as well. And just be with all your faithful servants, everyone that's given their heart to doing your work, Lord. Continue to give them the power, love, and wisdom of any problem that arise that may keep them from doing your work, and continue to use them in a mighty way to serve your purpose and your will with their lives and honor and glorify your name and build their kingdom, Lord. Watch over us all. Keep us all safe. Keep us all protected. But more importantly, Lord, keep us all in your will and help us all. I pray for the day when the world as a whole, we will humble ourselves, pray, seek your face, and turn from our wicked ways, so you may hear from heaven, forgive our sins, and heal our land. And be with my people, Lord. Be with the Lost Sheep Ministry. Continue to help it grow, prosper, reach out to the community, change the lives of others, and capture lost souls and men. And be with all the people that's a part of this ministry. Keep us encouraged. Use us all to do a mighty work to honor and glorify your name and turn the hearts of this world back to you. We thank you so much for this moment tonight. Thank you for this time. I know I went a little bit over, but thank you for their faithfulness and letting them stay here with me. And thank you for letting your spirit work through me to bring this wonderful lesson tonight. We love you so much and thank you for everything. Until we meet again, we say this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name. Amen. So, man, thank y'all again. Thank y'all Please continue to pray for me. And like I said, I pray for y'all as always. And for my Lost Sheep people, we will be meeting tomorrow. Chad, I think I saw earlier, I was kind of preaching, but it looked like you said you guys want to come tomorrow. So that sounds awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that. I would love to have you guys tomorrow. And of course, I'll stop by and pick you up. I got the church buses down, so it might be a little bit late because I'm going to have to drop the people off. I got to go pick up the people from Dixon in my truck, and then I'm going to have to drop them off at the church, and I'll come back and get y'all. But I will swing through there, and I might just stop by on the way out just to let y'all know and make sure everything is still good for tomorrow. But with that being said, I love you all. Thank y'all for bearing with me tonight. I know I went a little bit over, but I pray this was a blessing to you, and I pray that y'all continue to be a blessing to me by praying for me. So remember, always watch your back and pray. I love you all, and until next week, peace.